Yep.
All right, we're started. We're going. Okay, hold on. Make sure everything's working here.
At the end of the day, Lester, this is still all about the people at the top of the ticket. That's something that wasn't lost today in Trump world. Donald Trump did something unusual today. He held not one, but two campaign events of his own on the day of his VP debate. In Wisconsin.
View my channel.
JD Vance just one time during those two events.
Okay.
In response to a question. So for Donald Trump, this is still about Trump versus Harris, and I think that'll be something that's forefront on the mind of JD Vance when he takes the stage tonight as well. Lester?
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know.
View my channel.
Just one time during those two events.
Okay.
In response to a question. So for Donald Trump, this is still about Trump versus Harris, and I think that'll be something that's forefront on the mind of JD Vance when he takes the stage tonight as well. Lester?
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know.
View my channel.
Things-
Okay.
That seems like where the work is.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. We've made a lot of these points to this point. One other point that I would make in this conversation is remember how this whole campaign started where age was the big issue? Joe Biden was going to be 86 at the end of a second term. Right now, Donald Trump is 78 years old. His age means there's a little bit unique attention being focused on J.D. Vance right now. He's 40.
What the fuck?
Tim Walz, who is 60 years old today. The last time there was a big age discrepancy like this, 1988, Lloyd Benson and Dan Quayle, who was 41, a year older, of course, then J.D. Vance is when he's up there on stage.
And Vance has been senator for 2 years.
And the gist is that was one of the rare moments where a line broke through. You know, I knew John F. Kennedy, you know John F. Kennedy. These moments rarely break through.
All right, I think that's good.
Defines this night, or is
Yep.
it a wash
All right.
ultimately with the last month to go?
Kristen, at the end of the day, and I asked this question with 3 minutes to go. Do these debates matter?
Looks like-
Does the vice presidential debate matter in the big picture?
Daily Wire's doing some backstage action too.
Joe Biden had a very strong debate performance against Paul Ryan and really helped to reset the campaign after former President Obama stumbled in his first debate against Mitt Romney. So yes, they can matter. Again, I think this takes on outside because of the fact that there's no second presidential debate. One more point, in listening to those voters that Kate was talking
Irritating,
to,
irritating,
so
irritating.
frustrated with the process, and you think about that word change. Right now, Vice President Kamala Harris wins on the change argument by 9 points. I think that's part of the
There.
work that JD Vance is going to try to do.
Well, change is interesting because she's an incumbent, but so is former President Trump. That's right. So it's interesting to see that. And people say, or they like to say, conventional wisdom, these vice presidential debates don't matter. And maybe they didn't when elections weren't decided by 10,000 voters in a Midwest
right.
state.
In two different states, and that's it. I come back to something that you have said from the jump, Savannah, through this election cycle, which is
I actually doubt that this is going to change too much, but
especially with the race this close.
you can hold me on that afterwards.
Next debate for the presidential
And I
race.
think the opposite. I think it
Remember
will.
what this race is going to
I
come
think
down
it will
to.
do
There's
good.
6 critical battlegrounds: the economy,
Well,
and
so
immigration. We have
I
seen
think
that
it will do
consistency
good
in the
if
polling.
JD Vance wins.
Both of those issues
I
have
don't think it will really matter too
been
much
recruiting off
if
the first presidential election since
Tim Walz.
Hey, well, here. Let's get some pre-debate
Based on what we saw in the presidential
Remember, it was the Harris campaign and then the presidential debate. One
theories, I guess. Or
or
not theories. What's the word I'm looking for?
But it's that back and forth. They're hoping that you can hear those
Who do you think's gonna win?
by either side.
Show of hands, who thinks there will be another
JD
debate
Vance.
between Trump
Okay.
and Harris?
Let's see what this show.
All right, hold on.
Not a lot of people agree.
It's a quick poll. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like, but JD Vance has done very well.
top of the hour now, 9 p.m. here in New York City.
The
Seconds away from tonight's only vice presidential
news stations have really struggled to,
Minnesota Democratic Governor Tim Walz.
put JD Vance down with a lot of the stuff he said, because he's very well spoken,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and also Tim Walz hasn't really done a lot of speaking.
What we'll all be talking about.
He's kind of a wild card right now.
Every time he speaks,
I
it's
still
just good.
think I still think JD Vance will win,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. But I mean, unless Tim Walz pulls something out of his pocket really good, I mean, JD Vance is so much on him, like the military crap, a lot of his history.
Yeah.
There's new military crap that's come up as well.
Mm-hmm.
JD Vance has a strong
Unlike the last debate, microphones were
thing
not
against him.
muted, but the network says
Mhm.
they reserve
Yeah.
the right to mute the candidates, so that'll be an interesting process as they go along.
Okay,
Ooh.
vice presidential debate about
Okay.
to be on. Let's go to CBS
Weird.
Network Studios, West 56
That's what I thought.
in the heart of
Because when I heard them talking about it, They said that they will mute it on their discretion. I was like, that's not how this works.
CBS News Vice President
Yeah.
Oh, look at these two dumbasses.
on CBS
Oh,
on
great.
networks here in the U.S. and around the world.
I shouldn't. I was gonna say something sexist.
Focus is the
Shouldn't say
issues
that.
that matter to you.
Yeah, don't say that. We love women.
Minnesota's Democratic Governor Tim
Yes.
Walz
No, I'm
Ohio's
joking.
Republican Senator
Oh,
J.D. Vance.
oh, they don't even get to see them walk in or anything. Okay.
I'm Margaret Brennan. In order
Oh,
to have a
okay.
thoughtful and civil debate,
Nice.
these are the rules that both campaigns have agreed to. Questions will be directed at one candidate who will have 2 minutes to respond. The other candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for rebuttal. Then each candidate will get another minute to make further points, with an additional 1 minute each at the discretion of the moderator. The primary
Okay.
role of the moderators is to facilitate the debate between the candidates,
Okay.
enforce the rules, and provide the candidates with the opportunity to fact-check claims made by each other.
CBS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones to maintain decorum. We have not shared the questions or topics with the campaigns. The stage is set. Governor, Senator, thank you for joining us. Let's get started. Tonight, our country is facing several unfolding crises. The Middle East is on the brink of war. Americans are suffering.
The brink?
It's not on the brink of war, buddy. I don't
I
know
was
about
about to
that.
say it kind of already is in it. So yeah.
Workers from Maine to Texas are picketing. We're going to begin tonight with the Middle East. Margaret.
Thank you, Nora.
Okay, great.
Earlier
Thank
today,
you.
Iran
I'm actually
launched
glad.
its largest attack yet on Israel, but that attack failed thanks to joint U.S. and Israeli defensive action. President Biden has deployed more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel and assets to that region over the past year to try to prevent a regional war. Iran is weakened, but the U.S. still
What?
considers it the largest state sponsor of terrorism
Excuse
in the world,
me?
and it has drastically reduced
I don't know if weakened is the right word for you, but
down now
okay.
to 1 or 2 weeks' time. Governor Walz, if you were the final voice,
No,
in the
not 1 to 2
Situation
weeks
Room,
time. It's
would you
days
support
or
oppose
hours.
a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Thing is, Israel's gonna do that anyways.
Here, yeah, no, it doesn't matter what they say. They're gonna do
Where
it.
this started. October
Yeah.
7th,
All right, let's hear
Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that.
She didn't ask
It's
about
those that
Donald
were
Trump.
closest to Donald Trump that understand how
She's not.
dangerous
She
he
didn't
is
ask
and
about
what
Donald
is
Trump.
this
She asked
dangerous.
about what.
His chief of staff,
If you're the
John
last
Kelly,
voice in the room.
said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady
Yeah, and he
leadership.
switched his opinion on
We've
it.
seen a calmness that is able to draw.
There's plenty
on
of people who
coalitions
didn't
to
vote
bring
for
them
Donald Trump the
together.
first time who are now going to vote for Donald Trump.
That our allies matter.
Yeah.
When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see
Well, you're taking it out of context, buddy.
coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the vice president said today is, we will protect our forces and our
You
allied
don't
forces,
promote
and there
peace
will
by
be
not
consequences.
talking or
Governor, your time
just
is
letting
Senator
them do
Vance,
whatever
the
they
same
want to do.
question. Would you support
or oppose a
Oh, that's how you
preemptive
get
strike
war.
Going
by Israel on
non-contact
Iran.
with
You have 2 minutes.
with an
So I
enemy
wanna answer
state
the
is
question.
not
First
how
of all,
you
thanks,
do
Governor.
it.
Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate, and thanks most importantly to the American people who are watching this evening.
All right, let's see if he gives a better
This
answer.
country to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are. I was raised in a working class family. My mother required food assistance for periods of her life. My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me, and she raised me in part because my own mother
He's pulling a Kamala.
for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college
All right.
on the GI Bill after I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq, and so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams.
That's
And
when Tim
most
Walz
importantly,
cuts in, is like, I'm a veteran too.
worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American
He doesn't.
dream is
He's not that special.
convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get
If out of the two of them, I'll give it to
Donald Trump,
JD. He's a Marine, so I'll give it to
going to
him.
be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for?
True.
They use it to buy weapons
Fact
that
check,
they're now
true.
launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer
That
the
was
question.
pretty
Look,
good.
it's up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator.
Was that the first time I've ever heard somebody actually answer the question?
Well, look,
That's
Donald Trump
amazing.
was in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
than they were before because
Did
of Donald
it?
Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald
I
Trump.
believe he's talking
And
about
when
it.
Iranian
I don't think he's talking about an
missiles
aircraft. I
did
think he's talking about the
fall
drone.
near U.S. troops.
I remember that.
And they received
Yeah.
traumatic brain
And he
injuries.
switched up his foreign policy after that happened because it's true. He didn't really do anything about that.
That Donald
And he
Trump
should
is
have, but
fickle.
and he
will
changed
go
his
to
political
whoever
or
has
his
the most
foreign
power
policy
where it makes
stance
sense
on
to
that,
them.
and he became a lot more hawkish,
Like you witnessed today.
or not hawkish, but a lot more defensive,
Both Iranian attacks were repelled.
and
Yeah.
telling people what's what. And if you touch our shit, we're gonna touch your shit, and your shit's not gonna work afterwards.
Senator Vance, the U.S. did have a diplomatic deal with Iran to temporarily pause parts of its nuclear program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He recently said, just 5 days ago, the U.S. must now make a diplomatic deal with Iran because the consequences are impossible. Did he make a mistake? You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump, who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years, and the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now,
True. What has Biden done about
the
it?
sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. Nora?
Margaret, thank you. Let's turn now to Hurricane Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest on record. More than 160 people are dead and hundreds more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall. Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and... Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane, because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today, actually, a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive
Look at this,
as we can get to save as many lives as
Makes
possible.
me happy a little bit because they're like agreeing on it. Yeah.
Rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia. All across
If this was the presidential debate, Trump would have said it, and then Kamala Harris would have said, like,
when Donald Trump is president,
I agree, but you don't actually care about those people because of X, Y, and Z. Like,
disaster. And Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer.
Lagging
but one of the things
a
that I've
little
noticed,
I'm lagging a little bit. Hold on.
is a concern.
I see
about
that. Hold
carbon
on. I'm gonna
emissions,
fix
this
this.
idea that carbon emissions
Wait.
drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing
Am I
about
good?
weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you
Yeah.
believe that, what would you?
Okay, let me know if I lag
The
again.
answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America, because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner
throw it in
air
that
and
full
cleaner water,
screen.
the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately,
I
Kamala
like that
Harris has done
answer.
exactly the opposite.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane, and my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together to all of the governors and the emergency responders.
Bullshit, first of all.
Those happen on the front
What
end.
do you mean governors know no pardons?
They're there to that we recover.
What?
We're still in that phase where we need to make sure that
Partisanship.
they're staying
Y'all
focused.
always disagree
Now,
with each
coming
other.
Back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment.
He probably
We've seen
has.
massive
Probably,
investments
but
in global history that we've seen in
is he wrong?
has
No,
created
but
jobs all
I
across
don't
the
know.
country. 2000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the
there's
solution for
way more
us is to
efficient
continue
ways.
to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what absolutely
What?
makes sense.
No,
And
no,
then
no,
we
no,
start
no, no,
thinking
no,
about
no.
how do we mitigate these disasters.
What?
Thank you. Senator, I want to give you an opportunity to
An
respond. to what the
energy
governor mentioned that
superpower.
President Trump has called climate change a hoax. Do you agree?
Well, look, what the
You know
president
how we
has
become
said
an
is that
energy
if the
superpower is we
Democrats,
tap
and
into what's
particularly
under us.
Kamala Harris and her
That's how you do it.
leadership, if they really
Or,
believe
you
that
know,
climate change is serious,
I mean,
what they would be doing
I
is
mean,
more
we were an
manufacturing,
energy
more energy
superpower
production
until,
in
you
the
know, we
United States of
became
America, and
energy
that's not what they're
deficit.
doing. So clearly,
You know,
Kamala
due
Harris
to
herself
these
doesn't
people.
believe her own
Yeah.
rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon.
Lagging a
because
little bit
when
again.
we talk about clean
I am.
energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. And I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of
Think I'm
American
back.
taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be
I keep
making
seeing
more of those
the
solar panels here in the United
green
States.
bar on OBS
Some
go
of them
down.
are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China, especially the components that go into those
So
solar panels.
yeah,
So if
you
really want
are
to make
back.
the
It's
environment cleaner,
but the
you've
video
got to
is
invest in more
behind.
energy production. We haven't built a nuclear
This video is
facility
behind.
for one in the past 40 years. Natural
Yeah.
gas, we got to invest more in it.
You
Kamala
mean-
Harris has done the opposite.
What do you
That's
mean?
raised
Like
energy
on the
prices
stream?
and also meant that we're doing
Like his lip,
Time is
like
up.
yeah, his
Governor,
lip
would you
hit
like to
my
respond?
stream at least.
Well, look, we're producing more natural gas. Than
Oh,
we have. There's no more
it's not
oil
like that
now.
on
We're
mine.
producing more oil, but the
So I
folks
don't know.
know. And my,
Okay. Yeah, it's
like I
probably
said
just
again,
Discord then.
these are not liberal folks. These are not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are farmers that have been drought one year, massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense. Look, our #1 export cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota,
Ooh,
we're starting
I
to
just remembered.
improve some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we
I don't
make
know
sure
if that's
that
really
we're protecting
Kamala's
lakefronts
doing.
and
That's
things
just
that we're seeing more in the
advancement
world?
in
But to call it a
technology and
hoax
adapting
and
to
take the oil company executives to
the needs
Mar-a-Lago,
of
say, give
crop
me money for
growth.
my campaign,
That's
and I'll
due
let you
to
do whatever you
research
want.
and
We can be
and
smarter about that.
soil
And an all-above
companies and
energy
shit
policy
like
is
that. I
exactly
don't
what
know
she's doing,
specifically
creating
what
those
they're
jobs
called,
right
but
here.
that isn't
Governor, your time
Kamala.
is up. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. We're going to turn now to immigration. The crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among other things regarding children?
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this, about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis.
I'm sorry, what?
All right. What?
Drug mules is not true? Do you know what happens down there?
History. 30% decrease in.
They send kids through because they know they're going to get through,
Back to this on immigration.
and they have drugs with
The
them.
Attorney General,
Yeah, that's how it
the
works,
largest state,
buddy.
Border state in California. She's the only person in this race.
Then again, you're whiter than
Kids.
snow, so...
Adults as well.
No, it is adults as well.
But look,
But just talking kids, because that's what they were just talking about.
most of us want to solve
Yeah.
this. And
That's how it
is
works.
The United States Congress. That's the border.
Now, I know he's like in one of the states furthest away from the border, so he probably doesn't know.
We had the
But-
fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation. The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there. 1,500 new border agents. Detection for drugs. DOJ money to speed up these the adjudications on this, just what America wants. But as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle this, Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It gives him to, what would Donald Trump talk about if we actually did some of these things? And they need to be done by the legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options to do this. Donald Trump had 4 years. He had 4 years to do this. And he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it. Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But
Maybe it's because the rest of the government kept trying to stop him from doing it.
People
Yeah.
and telling him what he was going to do. As far as the deportation plan,
I mean, there was hearings upon hearings about the allocation of federal funds to the border
she'll sign it.
wall
Governor, your time is
construction.
up.
They were like, oh, we're not going to give you this money, or oh no, or we're this is all we're going to give you.
Even if their kids are U.S. citizens, you have 1 minute.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris of inviting drug mules. I said that she enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country. And we know that they use children as drug
Did he just
mules.
shake it? Did he just nod?
And it has to stop. Look, I think what Tim
Do you agree?
doesn't
Do you agree with that, Tim Walz?
3
Oh
years,
man,
Kamala Harris
she's
went
kicking
out
your ass off
bragging
the ticket
that
for
she
real.
was going to undo Donald Trump's border policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, what about our CBS News polling, which does show that a majority of Americans, more than 50%, support mass deportations?
Look, we fixed this issue.
Oh,
all that is
wow,
necessary.
okay.
But the
I was
issue
not
on
expecting
this
that.
is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this. And Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true, don't do it. There's consequences for this. There's consequences. We could come together. Senator Lankford did it. We could come together and solve this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send state law enforcement to escort kindergartners to school. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, but by standing with Donald Trump and not working together to find a solution, it becomes a talking point. And when it becomes a talking point like this, we dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
Tim,
Governor, your time is up. Senator, I'll give you 1 minute, but let me just ask you the question first. The governor has made the point, and I think as a sitting lawmaker, you know that Congress controls the purse strings and any funding. So you have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would
through executive action, solve this? Do you disagree that Congress controls the purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Look, Margaret, first of all, the gross majority of what we need to do at the southern border is just empowering law enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our borders are. Kamala Harris has been, and it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help, but most of this is about the president and the vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across the border illegally, you've got to stay in Mexico, you've got to go back through proper channels. Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed, you've got hospitals that are overwhelmed, you've got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about
blaming
speculators
migrants. They're
buying
blaming
housing,
you.
making them less affordable. But it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also.
Obviously, people are going to come into this country illegally if they can get away with it. I mean, I would, hell.
7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days.
It's not, so it's not, they're not saying that it's them. It's you. You guys need to stop this.
I don't talk about my faith a lot. But Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it. And it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well,
Nora?
but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
we're
because
going to turn now to the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that you guys
economy,
weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
we want to
CBP
have
One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
Smug asshole.
Nora.
Thank you, Margaret.
The audience can't hear you because your mic is cut. I heard him.
We can still hear him, yeah.
So let's talk about the specifics. Governor Walz, Vice President Harris unveiled a plan that includes billions in tax credits for manufacturing, housing, and a renewed child tax credit. The Wharton School says your proposals will increase the nation's deficit by $1.2 trillion. How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come from. We both grew up in that. We understand. So those of you out there listening tonight, you're hearing a lot of stuff back and forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed to happen. You should be listening. How's this going to impact me? The bold forward plan that Kamala Harris put out there is talking about this housing issue. The one thing is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan with down payment assistance on the front end to get you in a house. A house is much more than just an asset to be traded somewhere. It's foundational to where you're at. And then making sure that the things you buy every day, whether they be prescription drugs or other things, that there's fairness in that. Look, the $35 insulin is a good thing, but it costs $5 to make insulin. They were charging $800 before this law went into effect. As far as the housing goes, I've seen it in Minnesota. 12% more houses in Minneapolis, prices went down on rent 4%. It's working. And then making sure tax cuts go to the middle class. $6,000 child tax credit, we have one in Minnesota, reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We save money in the long run, and we do the right thing for families. And then getting businesses off the ground. The law as it stands right now is $5,000 tax credit for small business, increasing that to $50,000. Now, this is a philosophical difference between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks from Mar-a-Lago, said, you're rich as hell, I'm going to give you a tax cut. He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to the top class. What happened there was an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever. Now he's proposing a 20% consumption or sales tax on everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses, it would be destabilizing it, it would increase inflation and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you. Where are we going? Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do, we'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share. When you do that, our system works best, more people are participating in it, and folks have the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond on that. But similarly, the Wharton School has done an analysis of the Trump plan and says it would increase the nation's deficit by $5.8 trillion. My question is the same for you. How do you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, you're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer, a lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do. And some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies, and what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%, open the American southern border and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's also a record. A lot of those same economists attack Donald Trump's plans, and they have PhDs, but they don't have common sense and they don't have wisdom, because Donald Trump's economic policies delivered the highest take-home pay in a generation in this country, 1.5% inflation, and to boot, peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I say look at the record. He delivered rising take-home pay for American workers. Now, Tim admirably admits that they want to undo the Trump tax cuts. But if you look at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous Republican tax cut plans, is that a lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay to middle-class and working-class Americans. It was passed in 2017, and you saw an American economic boom unlike we've seen in a generation in this country. That is a record that I'm proud to run on, and we're going to get back to that common sense wisdom so that you can afford to live the American dream again. I know a lot of you are struggling. I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills. It's going to stop when Donald Trump brings back common sense to this country.
Governor, do you want to respond to that? What has Kamala Harris done for the middle class?
Yeah, well, Kamala Harris's day one was Donald Trump's failure on COVID that led to the collapse of our economy. We were already before COVID in a manufacturing recession, but 10 million people out of work, largest percentage since the Great Depression. 9 million jobs closed on that. That was day one. Man. Whether it was the Infrastructure Act or other things we moved. Now, you made a question about experts, said this. I've made a note of this. Economists,
when the government tells you that you're going to die because of the cold, because of the sniffles, people aren't going to work. When you close down businesses, people aren't going to work. The best way to get people back to work is to open it up. And Joe Biden didn't open it up for months after he got into office. In fact, I think it was over a year, was it not?
Out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, or whatever.
Bro, give it a few months. We'll say a few months. And after that, there was ideas that, oh, you wouldn't be able to work unless you got the vaccinated. Unless you got vaccinated. Or you wouldn't be able to go to school, or all these different things. So,
Governor, you say
I don't think it's Trump.
But those same
They didn't
experts
say
for
it's you
40
guys.
years
It's
said
you
that if
guys.
we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say,
I wonder if the moderators are going to ask about
"We're not
Tim
doing it
Walz's
anymore.
military
We're bringing
thing.
American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff." And this isn't just an economic issue. I mean, I've got 3 beautiful little kids at home, 7, 4, and 2, and I love them very much, and I hope they're in bed right now. But look, so many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop, and we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
Well, if you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look, I'm a union guy on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I understand that, look, we produce soybeans and corn. We need to have fair trading partners. That's something that we
Yo,
believe
what are
in.
you
I
doing
think
about
thing
the
that, most
the harbor
concerns me on
issues,
this
though?
is Donald Trump was the guy who created the largest.
You guys are
trade
such
deficit in American
union
history with
workers.
China.
I don't
So
think
You
the
like
fact
union
is
workers
good.
so much. What are you
Much
doing
of
about
what
the harbor?
senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched
Probably
it to my
nothing, 'cause they don't
community,
actually
and we talked
care.
about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is Donald Trump is talking about it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics
that's a
show
gross
that he
generalization.
did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much.
Well, now, that doesn't
All
matter,
of
'cause
us
Kamala Harris
can
worked at
do
McDonald's when
America
she was
that's
younger.
affordable again. We just got to get back to
Oh,
common
yeah.
sense economic principles.
I hope we have a conversation on healthcare then.
Senator, Governor.
Please.
Thank you. Margaret?
We have a lot to
Of course they're going to talk about healthcare.
Gentlemen,
Ding
on many
dong.
topics, but right now I want to talk about personal qualifications. The vice president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you about your leadership qualities. Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989.
What the fuck? That's why was he there? Why were you in Hong Kong, brother?
Traveled to Asia until August of that year.
Oh
Can
yeah,
you
this is what he was
explain that
talking. This is the
discrepancy?
issue.
Yeah.
Well, and to the folks
He was
out there who
never
get at the
there,
top
and he
of
said he
this, look,
was.
I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of
We're
400.
talking about Asia. We're not talking about Nebraska.
Lights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go
To
back
China?
and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now look, my community knows.
I don't know if I trust that now.
They look.
You were taking them to China?
I have poured my heart into my community.
Taking them to China,
I've
what the
tried
fuck?
to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect, and I'm a knucklehead at times. But it's always been.
Yeah,
about
you
that.
are.
Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say anything. Many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID, and I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world.
So wait.
So what do the best you can.
Instead of starting a trade war,
putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand
you become critically dependent on Chinese goods.
Whether it was being a good soldier or it was being a good member of
Got it.
Congress.
Okay. Got it.
The values that people
Being a good soldier.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Vance, in
This is such an awkward debate. I don't even.
Donald Trump fit for the nation's highest office, and you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and you've said you regret those comments and explained you then voted for Donald Trump in 2020. But the Washington Post reported new messages last week in which you also disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president, writing to someone in 2020, quote, Trump thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism. You're now his running mate, and you've shifted many of your policy stances to align with his. If you become vice president, why should Americans trust that you will give Donald Trump the advice he needs to hear and not just the advice he wants to hear? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak, when you get something wrong and you change your mind, you ought to be honest with the American people about it. It's one of the reasons, Margaret, why I've done so many interviews is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people where I come down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out the messages from 2020. Margaret, I've been extremely consistent that I think there were a lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration the first round if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States Senator, that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because
I'm very curious, actually. I do want to hear.
Of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China at $3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up for itself and says you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
Senator, your time is up. Nora?
Thank you. Now to the issue of
why do you even have to say that?
Governor Walz, after Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill into law that made Minnesota one of the least restrictive.
Who do you think's doing best so far? We're almost an hour in.
Former President Trump,
I'm thinking JD's doing amazing.
Yeah, I think he's doing very good.
JD's actually he's answering the questions. He's defending his record, and he's also admitting when he was wrong.
This issue is what's on everyone's mind.
I think so. To be honest, I think Tim Walz is doing okay as well.
He's doing okay. I'm glad that he said that he misspoke about Tiananmen Square and
52 years of personal autonomy.
about being there or
"Oh,
whatever.
Send it to the states. It's a beautiful
But-
thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane. She needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis.
This is where I'm gonna get
dies,
mad,
and now she
'cause-
may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said, 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota...
He's right. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Hello?
Roe versus Wade, we made sure that...
Horrible thing happened to her doesn't mean you can kill the innocent child.
This is not where... If you don't know Amanda...
And also, a 12-year-old, that would probably end up falling within medical complications, which would be under most state law. I don't think there's a state in this country that does not allow medical reasons, like if the life of the mother's in danger. I don't think any state in this country will stop you from having a medically necessary abortion. So I think that the 12-year-old would probably end up falling into that.
That's not how this works. This is
But
basic human right.
but if let's say the pregnancy was going to go completely fine, and there wouldn't end up being any medical complications, then yeah, no, 2 wrongs don't make a right.
We are ranked first in healthcare for a reason. We trust women. We trust doctors.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
No, Nora,
What?
certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know a lot of Americans don't agree.
They never even said they were going to do
Everything
that.
I've ever said on this topic. And, you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies. And
Oh,
decided
he
to
keeps
terminate those
pulling the
pregnancies
Kamala
because they
card.
feel
He
like they
needs
didn't
to
have any other
stop.
options.
I'm
And,
joking.
you know, one of them is actually very dear to me.
What
She's watching.
I grew up in a small town.
I came
See,
from
but
a middle-class
unlike
family.
Kamala, he actually can say that. I mean,
destroyed her life because she was
where did she
Yeah.
grow up? Freaking.
And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who
Actually, I think it
proudly
was.
wants to
I think she lived in
protect
Canada
innocent
for a
life
little
in
while.
this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party
she was
we've
born,
gotta
I
do
believe,
so
in
much
California.
better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the proper way to handle this, as messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest, sometimes a very, very messy and divided country.
Governor, would you like to respond?
That's
and also
the better
answer
answer,
about
yeah.
restrictions?
Yeah, well, the question got asked, and Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body, is determined on geography? There's a very real chance, had Amber Thurman lived in Minnesota, she would be alive today. That's why the restoration of Roe versus Wade. When you listen to Vice President Harris talk about this subject and you hear me talk about it, you hear us talking exactly the same. Donald Trump is trying to figure out how to get the political right of this. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, let me ask you about that.
Ay, ay,
you
ay.
mentioned, it was, I think, referring to a national ban. In the past, you have supported a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world. My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example, we have a partial birth abortion ban in place in this country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that, or at least I hope not, though I know that Democrats have taken a very radical pro-abortion stance. But Nora, you know, one of the things that changed is in the state of Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted overwhelmingly, by the way, against my position. And I think that what I learned from that, Nora, is that we've got to do a better job at winning back people's trust. So many young women would love to have families. So many young women also see an unplanned pregnancy as something that's going to destroy their livelihood, destroy their education, destroy their relationships. And we have got to earn people's trust back. And that's why Donald Trump and I are committed to pursuing pro-family policies, making child care more accessible, making fertility treatments more accessible, because we've got to do a better job at that. And that's what real leadership is.
Governor, your response.
Well, I'm going to respond on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We know what the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages, women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with the lowest teen pregnancy rates. We understand that too. We know that the options need to be available, and we make that true. We also make it, we're a top 3 state for the best place to raise children.
I muted before I had a heart attack.
Say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this.
I started coughing and long out, and I didn't know if it caught in the stream.
We are pro-freedoms for women to make their choices, and we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case, to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax credit, but we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like Amber Thurman drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
Senator?
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
but
this...
how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting engaged, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So you fact-checked it with President Trump.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. We have to move on, and we're going to be right back with much more of the CBS News vice presidential debate in just a moment.
I work with law enforcement and cut violent crime by 50% to help keep families safe.
Wix gives you the power of AI to build the website you need. With full business functionality and a design tailored just for you. Customize
What
every
am I doing?
element of your website.
Oh, that's cool. The whales.
Yeah! The whales. PepsiCo to buy tortilla chip maker Siete Foods. Hey. Hey. Wow, it's all like good news this time, it seems.
Oh!
Texas man says he smashed $4,000 guitar. There were more splinters and teardrops left on. I don't know. Okay.
That's funny.
So what do you think so far?
Pretty good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's something.
They should bring up the military records.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That'd be a fun.
I
That'd be
heard
a fun
something
little thing.
earlier I want to bring up after this debate is done that Vladimir Putin said. Yeah, I'll keep you in suspense. John Amos, veteran actor of Roots and Good Times fame, dies at 84. All that stuff.
Oh dear. Excuse me, sorry.
Sean Diddy Combs hit with a wave of
my
120 new
God.
sexual assault allegations. God, he's cooked. It's so over for him. Hilarious. Truly hilarious.
That's me.
And as well. Oh, now we get into the bad news.
Iran launched a ballistic missile tank. Is that
Yeah.
Tuesday? Okay.
Yeah. Look at that.
I heard Did you hear the reason why they couldn't come to a agreement? The port strike.
No, why?
Apparently, it's just a speculation. I heard it from my father, which I don't know. It's just speculation, but apparently people are saying they didn't go through because in one of the requirements that the port unions offered, requested, was that their jobs would not be replaced by machines, and they couldn't agree on that.
Oh. See, I feel
And
like
also the money. They wanted to
Yeah.
increase their work wage, which in my opinion, I think it's fair. I mean, it's one of the most gruesome and important jobs pretty much in our country right now because we're so dependent on
Yeah.
things coming into our country.
fair. How much were they asking for, though? That's the question.
They were asking for like a 6% increase over.
Okay, I feel like
No, they were asking for like a 50% increase over a 6-year period.
Step into the box and make it stop.
Or it was like it was some percent. It's not 50%. I'm sorry, but it was some amount of percentage increase over a 6-year period.
We are back now with tonight's.
And they wanted a base increase on the front of it as well.
Yeah. Look, we can look at it. We can look at it when after
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
These silly goofballs are getting back to business.
Welcome back to the CBS News Vice Presidential Debate. We want to turn now to America's gun violence epidemic. The leading cause of death for children and teens in America is by firearms. Senator Vance,
Really?
you oppose most gun legislation that Democrats claim would curb gun violence. You oppose red flag gun laws and legislation to ban certain semi-automatic rifles, including AR-15s. So let me ask you, earlier this year, for the first time, the parents of a school shooter were convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Do you think holding parents responsible could curb mass shootings? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, in that particular case, I don't know the full
I actually
details,
doubt
but I
that.
certainly trust local law enforcement and local
I don't
authorities to
think
make
so,
those
yeah.
decisions. I think in some cases the answer is going to be yes, and in some cases the answer is going to be no. And the
Yeah, I
details
mean,
really
each
matter
shooting
here.
is
For
kind of a
example,
case
with
by
the kid
case. You
steals
can't
a
really.
gun, that's going to be
I know what
different if a
case they're
parent hands
talking
over a
about.
gun knowing that their kid's
I don't
potentially
remember
dangerous.
exactly, but it was the
I wanna
father
just
that
sort of
bought
speak
his
as
son
a
an
father.
AR-15.
Was that the recent one?
Even though
Oldest is now in second
might
grade.
have been.
And like a lot of parents, we
And I
see
swear,
think so.
I swear that's not the first time they did it.
pride at their little faces on the first
I
day.
could have
don't
sworn there was
remember- I
another
don't
time.
know. I think it's
A
that
lot
though.
of kids are going to experience this terrible epidemic of gun violence. And of course, our hearts go out to the families that are affected by this terrible stuff. And we do have to do better. And I think that
This
Governor
terrible
Walz and I
stuff.
actually agree
It's-
that we need to do better on
I don't
this
know. Words
stuff
like
because
stuff
how do we
in
actually do it.
in
Now, here's
presidential
something that
politics,
really
it's just
bothers me
like
and worries me about this epidemic of violence. The gross majority.
it makes me feel.
90%, and some of the statistics I've seen.
Makes me
of
feel
the
like
gun violence
you're
in
trying to
this
talk to
country
us like
is
we're
committed with illegally
dumbasses. I
obtained
like it.
firearms.
I like
And
it.
while
I
we're
like
on
it
that
because most of
topic,
us are.
we know that
Yes.
thanks to
Yes.
Kamala
Thank
Harris's
you.
open border, we've seen
Yeah, we
a
need that.
massive influx in the number of illegal guns run by the Mexican drug cartels. So that number,
Thank
the
you.
amount of illegal guns in our country is higher today than it was 3.5 years ago. But what do we do about the schools? What do we do to protect our kids? And I think the answer is, and I say this not loving the answer, because I don't want my kids to go to school in a school that feels unsafe or where there are visible signs of security. But I unfortunately think that we have to increase security in our schools. We have to make the doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make
Yes.
the windows stronger.
Actually-
And of course, we've got to increase
actually
school resource
endorse-
officers,
not
because
endorse
the
it, but,
idea
like,
that we can magically wave a wand and
make
take
it
guns out
make
of the hands
new
of bad
schools
guys
actually
just
like
doesn't fit with
work.
recent experience. So we've
Our
got to make
school has
safer.
locking
And I
doors,
think
but
we've
they
got to
don't
have some common
work.
sense bipartisan
They
solutions.
don't
Yeah, and
work
it
half
also
the
doesn't
time.
help that
Governor,
most of the fucking rapscallions in that damn school
This is your biggest nightmare. Look, I got a 17-year-old.
don't. They end up
and
letting
you
people in
witnessed me
anyway.
in a community center playing volleyball. Those
Yeah.
things don't leave you. As a
Now
member
for the
of Congress,
stream, we are
I
not
sat
in school.
in my office,
We have graduated,
surrounded by
but
dozens of
we still
Senator
pay
parents,
attention to
and they were
our
looking at my
old
7-year-old
high school.
picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead, and they were asking us to do something. And look,
Yeah,
I'm a
I'm
hunter.
12.
I own firearms. The vice president is.
Are
We
you
understand
are
that
you
the Second
filming on
Amendment
Twitch?
is there, but our
No.
first responsibility is to our
Streaming
kids
on
to figure
Fifth.
this
Oh
out.
my God, I
In
can't speak.
Minnesota,
YouTube.
YouTube?
enacted
Yeah.
enhanced red flag laws.
If you're on
enhanced
Twitch,
background check.
say you're
And we
12.
can start to get
We'll
data.
get
But
banned.
Here's the
I'm
problem.
joking.
If we really want to solve this, we've got folks that won't allow research to be even done on gun violence. And this idea that we should just live with it, and I here's what I do think, that this is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that. But that's not far enough when we know there are things that worked. I've spent time in Finland and seen some Finnish schools. They don't have this happen, even though they have a high gun ownership rate in the country. There are reasonable things that we can do to make a difference.
Well, it's a little
It's not
different.
infringing on your
No.
Second Amendment.
Finland's smaller. Finland has a different culture. Finland is majority that culture. We are a nation filled with multiple groups of different kinds of people, different views, different values. So it's difficult.
And importation of illegal substances and illegal items.
Including firearms?
Thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills. They're being kids. We owe it to
Though
them
this
to
whole
get a fix. These are
hold
things
on,
that shouldn't be that
this whole
difficult.
thing
You can still keep
that
your firearms, and we can make a difference. We have
and
to
absolutely
tonight.
the students, the young kids, they should be top priority,
First of
100%.
all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting.
Yes.
And I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's doing
appreciate you
okay.
saying so.
Christ have mercy. It is.
Wow, look at these guys, man. I'll give Tim some credit here.
Frankly, weird.
And JD, they're being very, very formal about this and very
Yeah.
respectful in a way that Trump couldn't do if he was talking to a 12-year-old. Like, Trump would have to say something silly or something stupid, and these guys, they're doing pretty good.
To the root causes
yeah.
of.
Maybe Tim should be president.
Very, very
I'm playing.
Problem. But I do
No,
think it's
Tim
important
has
to
Tim's
consider
still a
another
kind of
driver of the
a
gun violence
dingling,
epidemic,
but
especially that affecting our kids. It doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible gun violence problem. And
but no, what I was saying was
and this is why we have to empower law.
the kids should be the top priority, yes, but I never hear them talk about the what he just talked about. The frickin' people on the streets pulling up with the Glock with the switch on your local 7-Eleven and shooting
A
somebody.
lot of school shootings and a lot of kids dying are because of gang violence.
Exactly. And if you want to talk like the big numbers of how many people are dying around the country, it's actually not schools. It's just the streets that people are being shot and killed on.
Several things I want to mention.
So if you want to
talking about cities,
if you want to have a serious gun violence and conversation, then that's where you need to start.
In Minnesota are rural suicides, and we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting themselves. And so we have, and we should look at all of the issues. Making sure
You should probably talk to Canada.
I want to be very careful.
that.
This idea of stigmatizing mental health, just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up doing is we start.
That's true. It doesn't mean you are violent, but you could be violent. You could be. Could be. That doesn't mean you are,
But
though.
I do think that this is one, and I think this is a healthy conversation. I think there's a capacity to find solutions on this that work, protect Second Amendment, protect our children. That's our priority.
Gentlemen, thank you. Margaret? Thank you, Nora.
But a ban
Let's turn
of
now to
a
the
national
top
rifle
contributor
ban
to
won't do that.
inflation, the high cost of housing and rent. There's a shortage of more than 4 million homes in the United States, and that contributes to the high housing prices. Governor Walz, the Harris campaign promises a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise
What is this
to build
swivel?
3 million new homes.
From
Where are you building these homes and
gun
handing out
control
that kind of money
to
just drive up prices
what is
higher?
this? Housing?
Handing out, we have, first, let me say this issue of housing, and I think those of you listening on this, the problem we've had is that we've got a lot of folks that see housing as another commodity. It can be bought up, it can be shifted, it can be moved around. Those are not folks living in those houses. Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house, I'm thinking of Christmas services after midnight mass.
Well, wait, where the hell are you living now? What do you mean you've only bought one house?
Affordable. And one of the things is,
What are you, renting?
This program that the vice president
Or do you still live there?
pushing forward and bringing in new.
Well, actually, no, I take that back. No, he's probably living in
We in the state invested in making
wherever
sure
the
our
governor's
housing
house
was
is.
the biggest investment that we'd ever made in housing. It starts to make it easier. We cut some of the red tape.
He lives in
Local
the White
folks, look,
House.
We can't do it at the federal level, but local folks
hope
make
not.
it easier to build those homes. And then that down payment assistance. I can.
Not
tell
even
you out
Kamala
there,
lives in the White
one of
House.
the- certainly for me, using the GI Bill was one thing.
He's actually Joe
but a
Biden.
veteran's home loan. The
He
big
might
thing
be.
about a veteran's home loan is you don't have to pay the down payment. Those are things that make it there. Now, look, you're going to pay it back, and you're going to pay your mortgage. Those are things that we know in the long run, the appreciated value, the generational wealth that's created from it. And I will give Minneapolis an example. Minneapolis is the one city where we've seen the lowest inflation rates. We've seen a 12% increase in stock because we put some of these things in. And we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people because here's what we know. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money. And that's the thing that I think we should be able to find some common ground in, but we can't blame immigrants for the only reason. That's not the case that's happening in many cities.
Well, it's not their. It's not only their
Is
fault.
that we don't have enough naturally
It's-
affordable housing, but we can make sure
A lot of
that
other
kickstarted,
factors that y'all could have
create
fixed that you
create
didn't.
that
So.
base.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, as far as your campaign's position, the promise is to seize federal lands to build homes, remove regulation, provide tax breaks, and cut back on immigration, which you say pushes up prices.
Hey, that sounds pretty good. Not gonna
Where are
lie.
you going to build all the new homes you're promising, and what part of any of this plan will provide immediate...
Girl, there is a lot of land in this country, and there's a lot of places you could put houses.
Tim just said something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this country, which does drive up costs, Tim. 25 million
Tim, shut the
illegal
fuck up.
aliens
Sorry.
with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers
I'm speaking.
of
I'm
home prices
speaking.
in the country. It's why we have massive increases
Excuse me.
in home prices.
I'm speaking.
Right alongside massive increases in illegal alien populations.
Alien
Kamala
population.
Harris's leadership. Now, Tim just mentioned a bunch of ideas. Now, some of those ideas I actually
It's the Kepler people from Instagram.
Kamala Harris is not running as a newcomer to politics. She is the sitting vice president. If she wants to enact all of
So you don't eat Kepler meat, but you'll schmoogaloo your doogaloo and with Kepler skin.
While Americans find the American dream of homeownership completely
Zorp.
change the equation for American
What the hell are
citizens.
you doing,
If
buddy?
you lower energy prices, as Donald Trump says, drill baby drill, one of the biggest drivers of housing costs aside from illegal immigration is, think about it, if a truck driver's
But
paying
it's going
40%
insane.
more for diesel, then the lumber he's delivering to the job site to build the house is also going to become a lot more expensive.
Wow, JD.
Open up American energy, you will
You're
get
so
immediate
smart.
pricing relief for American citizens.
When it costs more to get the thing, the resources to build the house to the place that the house is going to be built, then it's going to cost more to build the house, which is going to make the house cost more to.
Governor, we will get to you in a moment, but Senator, where are you going to see federal lands? Can you clarify?
Well, what Donald Trump has said is we have a lot of federal lands that aren't being used for anything. They're not being used for national park. They're not being used, and they could be places where we build a lot of housing. And I do think that we should be opening up.
No, we should build shrines to Donald
Trump. We have a lot of land that could be used. We have a lot of Americans that need homes. We should
build more military bases
who are competing for those homes, and we should be building more homes for the American citizens who deserve to be here.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, I do
Build
want to let you
airfields
respond to the allegation
everywhere.
that the vice president is
Shopping malls.
letting in
Well, of course, that's not
migrants,
true. And again,
that
you
it's
have the
affecting
facts. I
housing
guess we
prices.
agreed not to fact check. I'll check it. That look, crossings are down compared to when Donald Trump left office. But it's again, blaming and not trying to find the solution. I was going to ask though on this question: are we going to?
Oh yeah, the crossings are down probably because there's not that many immigrants left to cross the border. They're all already here, ding dong. They're all already here.
I know in the western part of the countries we do. There's not a lot of federal lands in and around Minneapolis, for example. So the issue
Crossings are
is, I don't understand
down,
the federal land
but it doesn't
issue
mean there
unless
still
we see
isn't
this, and I worry
crossings.
about this as
And the
someone
type of
who cares deeply about
crossings
our national
aren't
parks and our
aren't the
federal
good types of
lands
crossing where it's
We
just
protect these
normal
things.
civilians that
20%
are trying to
of
get
the world's
escape.
fresh
They're
water. These
the
lands
ones
protected.
carrying
They're there for a
drugs
reason. They belong to all of
and
us.
are
Yeah.
getting
But again, this is
through.
where you
Exactly.
do housing, and you view these things as commodities. Like there's a chance to make money.
And like I
Let's
said,
take
I
this
mean-
federal land and let's sell it to people for that. I think there's better ways to do this.
And I actually don't
So
think
whether
that that's.
refurbish some of these houses
I think
or
that's
open
kind of
some
disingenuous because I think if you look at the amount of illegal immigrants
economists
caught
Senator Vance, you said you don't
after
like
they
the
crossed the
economists.
border
Which
illegally
economists
under
are
Donald
saying
Trump,
is
it was a lot less than what we have now. And now we're not even like deporting these people.
But Senator, on that point, I'd like for you to clarify, there are many contributing factors to high housing costs. What evidence do you have that migrants are part of this problem?
Well, there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share after the debate. We'll put it up on social media, actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels.
No,
of
that's when you tell
migration,
Trump,
illegal
if
immigration,
you're watching, put it up quick.
Margaret, that's not the entire
Put it up right
driver
now.
of higher
Put it up
housing
right now.
prices.
Get
It's
on,
also
get on Truth
regulatory
Social right
regime
now.
of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers. But we increasingly
Doers,
have a federal
do-doers.
administration that makes it harder to develop our resources,
It's my
makes
duty.
it harder to build things, and wants to throw people in jail for not doing everything exactly as Kamala Harris says they have to do. And what that means is that you have a lot of people who would love to build homes who aren't able to build homes. I actually agree with Tim Walz. We should get out of this idea of housing as a commodity. But the thing that has most turned housing into a commodity is giving it away to millions upon millions of people who have no legal right to be here.
What are the federal regulations? I deal with this as a governor.
You can very quickly reply.
I'm sorry. I get this as a governor, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, that in some cases, many of those are local. Many of them are state. I don't know which ones are federal, but I think whenever we talk regulations, people think they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire. I think you want to make sure that it's fireproof and those types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible.
I don't think the regulations are how you build the house. I think it's where you build the house, the amount of houses built, and then there are regulations on what kind of materials it's allowed to be out of, what certain requirements need to be there.
Healthcare. Senator Vance, at the last presidential debate, former President Trump was asked about replacing the Affordable Care Act. In response, he said, "I have concepts of a plan." Since then, Senator, you've talked about changing how chronically ill Americans get health insurance. Can you explain how that would work? And can you guarantee that Americans with pre-existing conditions won't pay more? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, of course, we're going to cover Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, a lot of my family members have gotten health care. I believe, members of my family actually got private health insurance, at least for the first time, switched off of Medicaid onto private insurance for the first time under Donald Trump's leadership. And I think that, a lot of people have criticized this concepts of a plan remark. Look, it's very simple common sense. I think it's Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress. You're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears, and it wouldn't actually
You're goddamn right it
anything
would.
because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation.
Yeah,
now,
I'm gonna
when
leave.
Donald Trump was actually president, and again, he has a record to be proud of, prescription drugs fell in 2018 for the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, prescription drugs are up about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about 1.5%. He introduced pricing transparency. Think about healthcare. You go into a hospital, you try to buy something, and nobody knows what it actually costs. That price transparency will actually give American consumers a little bit more choice and will also drive down costs. And we talked about, the reinsurance regulations is what I was talking about. Look, Donald Trump has said that if we allow states to experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill but the non-chronically ill, it's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States. And I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged Obamacare, which was doing disastrously until Donald Trump came along. And I think this is an important point about President Trump. Of course, you don't have to agree with everything that President Trump has ever said or ever done, but when Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care. It's not perfect, of course, and there's so much more that we can do, but I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to put in place some better health care policies. He's earned it because he did it successfully the first time.
Governor?
All right, here's where being an old guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA. And the
You were
reason
there
it was
at the
so
creation?
important is I
What the
come
hell?
from a major
How old are you?
healthcare state, home of the Mayo Clinic, home to
Just
Medical
kidding.
Alley. 3M, Medtronic, all of those. We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked first on affordability and accessibility and quality of healthcare. And so what I know is under Kamala Harris,
I wonder if there's
more people are covered
anything
than they have
live
before. And those of you listening, this is critical
about
to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants to go
Israel
back and remember
after
this.
we get down
He
with this.
ran on the first thing
Might
he
try
was
to
going to
find
do on
something
day
like that.
one was to
Yeah.
repeal Obamacare. On day one, he tried to sign an executive order to repeal the ACA. He signed on to a lawsuit to repeal the ACA, but lost at the Supreme Court. And he would have repealed the ACA had it not been for the courage of John McCain to save that bill. Now, fast forward, what that means to you is you lose your pre-existing conditions. If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a woman, probably not. Broke your foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids get kicked out when they're 26. Kamala Harris negotiated drug prices for the first time with Medicare. We have 10
Kamala Booby?
drugs that will come online, the most common ones.
Didn't mean to say that.
Look, this issue, and when Donald Trump said, I've got a concept of a plan, it cracked me up as a fourth grade teacher because my kids would have never given me that. But what Senator Vance just explained might be worse than a concept, because what he explained is
Conception.
And I'll make this as simple as possible because I've done this for
Contraception.
a long time. What they're saying is, if you're healthy, why should you be paying more? So what they're going to do is let insurance companies pick who they insure, because guess what happens? You pay your premium, it's not much. They figure they're not going to have to pay out to you. But those of you a little older, gray, got cancer, you're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
Governor, thank you. Senator, you have not yet explained how you would protect people with pre-existing conditions or laid out that plan.
Well, look, we currently have laws and regulations in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep those regulations in place, but we also want to make the health insurance marketplace function a little bit better. Now, what Governor Walz just said is actually not true. A lot of what happened and the reason that Obamacare was crushing under its own weight is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges. Donald Trump actually helped address that problem, and he did so in a way that preserved people's access to coverage who had pre-existing conditions. But again, something that these guys do is they make a lot of claims about if Donald Trump becomes president, all of these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality, Donald Trump was president. Inflation was low. Take-home pay was higher. And he saved the very program from a Democratic...
No, I hear that too. What is that?
And would have collapsed absent his leadership. He did his job, which is govern in a bipartisan way and get results.
It's one
not
of
just
the
complain about problems,
news
but actually
anchors.
solve them.
They need to get
Governor,
the phone
did
over
enrollment
there.
under
I think
the
somebody has
Affordable
some
Care
sort of
Act go up
music.
under the Trump administration?
It's higher now that we've seen it go up.
I'm hearing
the system works. And
Yeah.
It's like the vibration.
No, that's music. Somebody has music on. I hear it too.
Fought tooth and nail.
Oh, no, I hear like, have you ever put your phone on mute and it vibrates?
I think
Yeah, no, it's the beat of the music.
broad enough to cover everyone. That's the only way insurance works. When it does
Yeah.
collapses, you are asking pre-ACA
What the?
where we get
Turn
people
that
out.
shit down.
Look, people know that they need to be on health care.
But I hear it like every night. There's no way they're playing the same song each night. I don't know what the hell that is.
Oh, is that?
Maybe
Oh
it's a
my!
game.
So, oh, I thought it was one of the news anchors.
People who might not be able to afford
No.
to get there, and we make sure then when you get sick and
Okay.
it's there for you. Because
It's
I hear people
around
say,
you.
"Well, I don't-
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
in
wanna buy into
my-
Medicare or
yeah.
whatever." Good luck buying health care once you get past 70. So look, the ACA works. We can continue to do better. Kamala Harris did that. The way she made everything better was negotiating those 10 drugs on Medicare for the first time in American history.
Thank you. Margaret?
Can I address that?
I apologize. We're out of time. We have a number of subjects to discuss. Margaret?
Let's talk about families in America.
Families? What about them?
There is a child care
Again.
crisis in this country, and the United States is one of the very few.
Is it that loud?
Again, insulin was not lowered to $30. Most medications were not lowered to the exact prices they're saying they were. My dad's insulin is not $30.
Yeah.
To pay workers while they are home taking care of their newborns.
Well, they
You
should
have
be
2 minutes.
clear. They should.
Yeah,
I mean-
well, that's negotiable, and that's what Congress works. But here's what the deal is.
You have to do things that'll
Americans
make
out there
it
right now. You may work for a big
easier
company,
for those
work
prices
home
to
in
go
Minnesota
down.
to some of the largest Fortune
You can't
500
just tell them,
Kamala Harris
put the
works
damn
for
price
Ferrari
down.
in California. Those companies
A, because
provide-
it
And
doesn't
that's
always work.
after,
And
and
B,
that's after insurance as well.
yeah, exactly.
That's, and it's still not 30 after
Minnesota
insurance.
Yeah,
has to
and
pay
B,
family medical leave. You have a child.
the American people actually don't
and I had
support
to go
price
back to work
controls.
5 days after my kids
in
were
large
born.
part.
This allows you to.
Oh,
And
I
that-
forgot. It's
that's on a lot
because
of different things.
you have to be on
That
state
gets
insurance
the
for it to
child off
count.
to a better start.
Yeah.
The family works better. We stay in
Yeah,
there. We get more
yeah,
consistency
he
in it.
told.
Kamala
So the
Harris has
only
made it a
reason why
priority.
he
We
doesn't get it
implemented
is
Minnesota
because
and
you have to be
Mississippi.
under state
That's how you
insurance for it to be
a
be those
pro-business state.
prices.
But the negotiations on it, and here's the issue.
Yeah,
Those big
I don't-
companies are able to offer it.
And who the hell
Those
wants to
of
be
you out there who don't have it,
like Medicare?
Just imagine what happens if you
Yeah.
get cancer.
Yeah.
Or your child gets sick. We know what happens. You
It's
end up
almost like they
staying
want to
home. In some
incentivize
cases,
people
that
and get
means
on
no
the
paycheck, 'cause you've got
government
no protection
healthcare.
on that. This is the case of an economy that Donald Trump has set for the wealthiest amongst us. He's willing to give those tax breaks to the wealthiest. He's willing to say, bust those unions up, do whatever. What we're saying is the economy works best when it works for all of us. And so a paid family medical leave program, and I will tell you, go to the families or go to the businesses and ask them. As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. You can't expect the most important people in our lives to take care of our children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure
How
that
long
folks
is
are
this
able to pay
debate
for that.
supposed to
We
go
were able
to?
to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this. We were listed as the best state. We're still in crisis on this. A federal program of paid family and medical leave and help with this will enhance our workforce, enhance our families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, do you support?
I can't wait. There's 2 days until I'm the special boy for the day.
For how long should
Because
employers
it's
be
national.
mandated
It's going to be
to pay
National
their
Boyfriend
employees while
Day
they're
in
home
2
taking care
days.
of a newborn?
Whoop,
Under
whoop.
2 minutes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Margaret, a number of my Republican
I better
colleagues
get
and some
some
Democrats too have worked on this issue, and I think there is a bipartisan solution.
flowers.
This issue. I mean, look,
Better get some what?
Well, flowers.
Because I'm married to a beautiful woman who is an incredible mother to our 3 beautiful kids, but is also a very, very brilliant corporate litigator. And I'm so proud of her. But being a working mom, even for somebody with all of the advantages of my wife, is extraordinarily difficult. And it's not just difficult from a policy perspective. She actually had access to paid family leave because she worked for a bigger company. But the cultural pressure on young families and especially young women, I think makes it really hard for people to choose the family model they want. A lot of young women would like to go back to work immediately. Some would like to spend a little time home with the kids. Some would like to spend longer at home with the kids. We should have a family care
Some want to
model
stay there
that makes
forever.
choice possible. I think this is a very important substantive difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's approach. I mean, look, if you look at the federal programs that we have that support paid family leave right now, the Community Development Block Grant, and there's another block grant program that spends a lot of money from the federal government. These programs only go to one kind of childcare model. Let's say you'd like your church maybe to help you out with childcare. Maybe you live in a rural area or an urban area and you'd like to get together with families in your neighborhood to provide childcare in the way that makes the most sense. You don't get access to any of these federal monies. We want to promote choice in how we deliver family care and how we promote childcare because look, it is unacceptable. And, you know, of course, Tim and I have been on the campaign trail a lot the past 7 or 8 weeks. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from young families is people who feel like they don't have options, like they're choosing between going to work or taking care for their kids. That is an incredible burden to put on American families. We're the only country that does it. I think we could do a heck of a lot better.
Senator, thank you.
Wait.
You have
I'm
also
sorry,
said,
what?
Senator Vance, many things about the American family.
Go either-
The Federal Reserve says parents will spend nearly
Well, what
as
other
much on
options would there be?
childcare as they do on housing each month. So I want to get your thoughts on this. President Trump recently said, as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers we'll be taking in.
It depends.
Is President Trump committed to the $5,000 per child tax credit that you have described? You have 1 minute.
Well, what President Trump said, Margaret, I just want to defend my running mate here a little bit, is that we're going to be taking in a lot of money by penalizing companies for shipping jobs overseas and penalizing countries who employ slave laborers and then ship their products back into our country and undercut the wages of American workers. It's the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan. Cut taxes for American workers and American families. Cut taxes for businesses that are hiring and building companies in the United States of America, but penalize companies and countries that are shipping jobs overseas. That's the heart of the economic proposal. And I think what President Trump is saying is that when we bring in this additional revenue with higher economic growth, we're going to be able to provide paid family leave, childcare options that are viable and workable for a lot of American families.
It's a very...
Can you clarify how that will solve the child care shortage?
Well, because
What?
as Tim said, a lot of the child care shortage is we just don't have enough resources.
I mean, child
to
care
get to
shortage?
multiple people who could be providing family care options. And we're going to have to, unfortunately, look, we're going to have to spend more money. We're going to have to induce.
He
more
just said
people
it. He's
to
going
want
to,
provide
when they
childcare
get more
options for
money
American
from the
families.
tariffs
And
and
the
from
reason it's so
punishing
expensive
companies
right now
that are
is
sending
because
our jobs overseas and taxing the shit out of them because they should be,
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz.
when they get that money back, they're going to be able to put it into childcare and other such things. That's what he just said. What do you mean? How is that going to help?
Over the age of 6, as your
He just said why. Phil, connect the dots.
Well, if these members of Congress are listening to anybody, I can tell you. And
Buddy?
This
You
is
call him
the
buddy.
biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked to hear it's not that expensive. And let's be clear, whether it's $5,000 or $6,000, that pays you about 3 or 4 months. Let's be clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart. I'm not opposed to what he's talking about on options. We've done scholarships types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case. But the issue here is, the question you asked is, you're not going to pay for it with these tariffs.
See, he's agreeing a little too much with JD. I feel like Kamala might have an issue with that.
Get the money.
Yeah, maybe.
$4,000 in the hole. That's Wharton School. That's his alma mater. And so I think the issue here is, if those members of Congress, I can't believe they're not. When I go to businesses, sure,
I guess we'll see afterwards.
Sometime, but they will
see what everybody says. Everybody's like, oh, Tim Walz won because he was a nice man.
We need more workers because our economy's growing. But
I'm not looking at who's nice or not.
Governor,
They're
thank
both
you.
being very
Please
nice
move
to each
on.
other.
Nora, let's talk about the state of democracy.
I'm looking at what
the
they're
top
saying.
issue
Oh
for
God, state of
Americans after the economy
Oh, God.
and inflation.
Ugh.
After the 2020 election, Trump's campaign and others filed 62 lawsuits contesting the results.
I say we end the democracy and become a theocratic dictatorship.
At the evidence and
I want the theocracy with the Pope as leader.
Governors of every state in the nation,
Of course you would, you
Republicans
frickin'
and
Russian
Democrats,
boy.
certified the 2020 election results and sent a legal slate of
You
electors
sinner.
to Congress for
Hey now,
January
I
6th.
didn't do nothing.
Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last
I am
presidential
not even
election
a
and
senator.
would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question.
There's only so
because
much you
you've
can
been
do
asking.
right now.
Look, what President Trump has said
Yeah.
is that there were problems
I see what he's
in
saying. I get what
2020,
he's saying.
and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president, Donald Trump left the White House, and now, of course, unfortunately, we have all of the negative policies that have come from the Harris-Biden administration. I believe
I'm
we
gonna mute
actually
real
do
quick.
have
I
a
have to
threat
use
to
the
democracy in this
bathroom, but I'm
country,
gonna keep
but
my headset.
unfortunately,
Oh.
it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years. Now, I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by two lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree on every issue, but we're united behind a basic American First Amendment principle that we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. She did it during COVID. She's done it over a number of other issues. And that, to me, is a much bigger threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
Governor?
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate, and I think there was a lot of commonality here, and I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator. But
Me too, man.
There's one though that this one is troubling to me, and I say that because I think we need to tell the story. Donald Trump refused to acknowledge this, and the fact is that I don't think we can be the frog in the pot and let the boiling water go up. He was very clear. I mean, he lost this election, and he said he didn't. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day. Some with the American flag, several later died. And it wasn't just in there.
Several
Minnesota,
later died. Is
gathered
that
on
what
the
you
state
just said?
Capitol grounds in St. Paul and said, we're marching to the governor's residence and there may be casualties. The only person there was my son and his dog, who was rushed out crying by state police. That issue, and Mike Pence standing there as they were chanting, hang Mike Pence. Mike Pence made the right decision. So, Senator, it was adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with kids long enough to know, and I said as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election. You shake hands, and then you try and do everything you can to help the other side win. That's what was at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter.
That's funny, really, because that's what Joe Biden is doing.
So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box.
He like stuttered for a second. I think he knew that when he was saying it, he had to go all the way in with it.
On January 6th, the first time in
Imprisoning
American
your
history
political opponents.
that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Margaret? Senator Vance, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, well, look, Tim, first of all, it's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections. Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Don't look like that. You know it's true, Tim Walz. You know.
Because
he's like, this is his face. You know it's true.
Wow. For a long time. And if we want to
people in the streets
the results of the election
in 2016 were fucking losing their minds because Donald Trump won.
I don't buy that.
And they questioned it, and Clinton said that she won.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think a revisionist history
What?
on this. Look,
No,
I don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that happened. Donald Trump can do it. And all of us say there's no place for this. It has massive repercussions. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone, threatening to do something, that's not censorship. Censorship is book banning. We've seen that. We've seen that brought up. I just think for everyone tonight.
What books, I guess, is the question.
Thank Senator Vance. I think this is the conversation they want to hear. And I think there's a lot of agreement. But this is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further. But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence.
You mean hate speech? Shut up.
That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks.
Senator, the governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government.
Aw, Tim Walz is so cute. He said sorry. You're so cute. Fucking piece of shit.
What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump?
What?
Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office even if the president doesn't. And I think Kamala Harris would agree, she wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be right back with both of our candidates. The CBS News vice presidential debate continues.
Please tell me the closing statements are coming, because I can't take it anymore. I just lost my door. Horde strikes put Democrats in a bind just weeks ahead of the election. Keep it going. Honestly, let's do it. Keep it up. We're gonna take them out. Take them out. Okay. With probably not that long of the debate going, still, who's winning?
I still say JD, man.
Yeah, I think Tim Walz is doing much better than I expected him to do. But
yeah, for sure.
Which worries me. We need JD to pull up. Come on, pull up and just I don't know. It always irritates me when we go back to the 2020 election about like, oh, he said he lost, he said he won it, but he actually lost it. No, he didn't. He didn't lose. He won and Biden stole. Guys, can we move on, please? I don't like it when you guys talk about it. I don't like it when Trump talks about it. Every time I hear Trump talk about 2020 and how he won, I tell him in my head or even out loud, not to him obviously, because I don't, I don't know him, but like, I say like verbally, like, shut the fuck up, please. Like, we don't, maybe not in such graphic language, but like, please stop talking about it. It's over, and you talking about it puts that back into question, and a lot of people are gonna say that you were in the wrong.
Yep.
So it's best not, and I don't care what if you think he won, if you think he lost, if you think that there was cheating, if you think there wasn't, it doesn't matter. This is not 2020. This is 2024. This is a new election. We need to focus on this, not our grievances with what happened in 2020. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump won that election fair and square and Joe Biden stole it. Joe Biden is the president right now. And he's doing a horrible job. And we need to fix this. So, can't go back and fix it by doing 2020 over again. We need to move on. Why did they show this ad again? Like, I don't... It's funny because I've never seen this brand of chip ever in my life, and yet it seems CBS thinks it's like the most, or NBC, sorry, thinks it's like the most important thing in the world.
How hard is it to see it like this?
Our house is no longer here, but we are here.
Now is real.
Let's break down what we know and then the big questions still outstanding.
News for the generation of now is NBC News Now.
Debate,
And we go
debate,
back
debate.
with tonight's vice presidential debate.
When it ends, join us right here. Analysis. But now, back to the debate.
Yes, please. We need. Hurry up, please. I have things to do. I have business to attend to.
Welcome back to the CBS News Vice Presidential Debate. It is now time for the closing statement.
Oh, okay.
Senator Vance won the virtual coin toss and elected to go last. So, Governor Walz, you are first. You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Senator Vance. Thank you to CBS News. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. If you're still up and the folks who miss Dancing with Our Stars, I appreciate it. But look, the support of the democracy matters.
You're so funny.
As anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built, from Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift, and a whole bunch of folks in between there.
What the fuck are you talking
They don't
about?
all agree on everything, but they are truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive future of this country and one where our politics can be better than it is.
And you
I
brought
have
up
to tell
Taylor
you
Swift?
That better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And the idea that freedom really means something. Not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom or exam room, but the freedom for you to make choices about yourself. Now, look, we all
wanna
know
be in your bedroom.
who Donald Trump is. He's told us,
Whoa,
and
now.
as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage, and then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that. Senator Vance tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me. He said, Donald Trump makes the people I care about afraid. A lot of America feels that way. We don't need to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt was right. All we have to fear is fear itself. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a
Trump is
politics
not
of
Hitler.
change. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that. All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your voices heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz,
No.
thank you.
No joke.
Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Don't joke. No.
I think
No.
you,
I'm not giving you my vote.
and of course, the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of
I'm not
those
giving
things
you my
that
vote
I was
either,
energy,
JD.
and
You know who I'm giving the
I was
vote
being
to?
raised by my grandmother.
Myself.
When she didn't have enough money to turn
Kamala
on the heat
Harris.
some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night.
You're gonna give
and
it to
because
Kamala
money was
Harris,
often
we all
very
know
I'm
that.
giving it to Bernie.
And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house.
I like how they don't even talk
in safe
like
neighborhoods. You ought to
they don't even
have your
talk about Biden
communities
anymore.
flooded with fentanyl, and that too has gotten harder with because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse. Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and good night.
Senator Vance, thank you. And thank you both for participating in the only vice presidential debate of this election cycle. I'm Margaret Brennan.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. And a reminder, there are just 35 days until Election Day. Please get out and vote. And for all of us here at CBS News, thank you and good night.
A handshake, and that's the end. Tim Walz, J.D. Vance squaring off for about 90 minutes in the heart of Midtown Manhattan, the CBS News studios, as their families come out to greet them after what was really a quite civilized debate. And
It was civilized. It was great.
We'll talk about as we turn to meet the press moderator, Kristen Welker, and Hallie Jackson, our senior Washington correspondent. Lester here, still with me in New York City. I really
Look at them. They're talking. Wow.
Policy debate.
These guys here.
Didn't get
Seriously.
By the way, they're still chatting.
Still chatting. Didn't get weird.
Yeah, it got weird a few times. Just a few times.
Shots, but it was earnest, and there were even moments of kind of congeniality and collegiality.
There were a number
Big
of
words.
moments where each of the candidates turned to each other and said, "I agree with you." When Governor Walz said that his child had.
We saw Kristen Welker, you shitty moderator.
Also, I feel like, the first person to do that was J.D. Vance. He was the first one to start.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did start off. He started the whole, "Oh, I actually agree with you" thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Okay. So. Hold on.
At the end of the night, something very significant happened, which is that Governor Walz turned to Senator Vance and said, "Did Trump lose the 2020 election?" Vance said, "I'm focused on the future." Walz said, "That's a damning answer." I do think
He said
that
it's a
answer,
damning non-answer.
Non-answer. And I do think that exchange and non-answer will in some ways loom very large over what Democrats and Republicans.
Huh. He did answer it, though, after that. He said that I still don't agree with it. I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't know either. I don't want to hear it.
Well, I want to know who they thought won. That's the only reason.
What? Sorry, what?
I want to know who they thought won.
All right, here, I'll unmute.
Kamala Harris to Tim Walz. Both of them seemed very clear that they know what this is about, right? This is about the principles. This isn't necessarily
Even
about
at the end, they both said vote for Kamala Harris.
That's
vote
exactly
for Donald
right.
Trump,
And on the
not
other
vote for
side
me.
too. I mean, J.D. Vance said Kamala Harris's name 38 times. That is way more than Donald Trump ever said Kamala Harris's name.
A lot of people don't really know who these two men are.
Yeah, that's right. We talk about this being an introduction to America. You heard a lot of policy. You heard some substance there too. So you probably have some level of takeaway if you ended up watching for the full 90 minutes. But I do think that as things move forward, I had one Democrat text me, "Listen, substantive, but also can't imagine this changes a whole lot in the race moving forward."
And I think the biography is important. That's why you heard both of them pause at various moments throughout the night to reintroduce themselves to Americans, to explain where they had come from, the fact that they both have served in the military, and to try to relate themselves as people who can relate to moderates, to independents, to those suburban voters who are going to.
The closing moments, the closing arguments are always so interesting because that's the only thing they get to plan, rehearse, memorize if they want to. And they both struck a note of optimism about the future in the country. And with J.D. Vance, frankly, it was a stark contrast to what we hear from Donald Trump, who says this country is going to HE double toothpicks, it's all terrible.
You can say the word.
Okay, hell, sorry. I don't know if my kids were still awake. But, it was interesting to see him strike that tone because it's in contrast to what we hear from Donald Trump every day.
And he himself just over the weekend said, "Yeah, this is a dark speech. I know that I'm giving a dark speech." Donald Trump did at a campaign rally he was at. He understands that is the tone he's striking, and it was markedly different.
All right, let's see what other folks are thinking about what we've just witnessed. Kate Snow has been talking to a group of voters in battleground Pennsylvania. Kate, what's the consensus? What are you hearing?
Lester, it's really interesting. We've just been chatting since the debate ended. We are in Pennsylvania, right, guys? And we talked about how you feel the pressure that this is a swing area and that you could actually decide this election. So, Brian, let me start with you because you were really torn going in before the debate. You talked about not knowing exactly what you want to do. How are you feeling now?
I feel like Walz probably hit it on the head a lot of times. It's probably 60-40.
60-40 for Harris?
For Harris, yeah. I feel like Vance sort of danced around a lot of questions.
I think he actually answered more questions directly than Tim Walz did.
The vice president debate is really not going to have any kind of meaning on how I vote. But
as you sit here now, do you have more certainty about how you're going to vote, or not really?
No, not really. No. But I do think that
Got a bunch of damn fools in that.
he was really for the people, right? And Vance did a lot of deflecting and a lot of.
Oh, excuse me, what?
I don't think he did.
Answers, so.
Hate to break that to you.
I hate to break that. He was also trying very hard, doing the same thing Walls was doing, trying to reach to the people.
He was saying things that people wanted to hear. He sounds like he was trying to be more human. This does not necessarily align to what he said before, in my opinion.
And you said that now you are feeling a little more certain about going with Harris. Am I reading that right?
Yes. Now it's October 1st. I think it's irresponsible to have this much uncertainty coming out of either side. Vance did nothing. He did not answer the question for me, and he made a lot of.
Then, you guys, listen. It's really.
It wasn't really there for me.
See, I don't want to be a dick, but this is why people think. This is why politicians think that the American people are dumb. It's not that hard to see, guys.
You're involved in policy discussions.
I know not everybody can waste as much time on this bullshit as me and you can. And not everybody wants to waste as much time as me and you do on this stuff. But literally read an article. Read a few articles, listen to what they said, watch the debates, watch the DNC and the RNC, watch them speak, watch a few of their rallies, and you'll get your answer.
So after tonight, I still feel like a little unwary about exactly who I will be voting for, and if I will be voting at all.
And if you will be voting at all, you know, I'm sure both sides, both of those men would have said, "Please vote if you can." John,
I just want to add to that point. You know, again, we have two men discussing issues that are, have to do with women's rights and whatnot. But let's not forget that the person at the top of the ticket for the Democrats is a woman, and she has a lot to say, which maybe that will help.
And we know that you support Harris, John. I know quickly you also.
What is this group of people? Do they all support Harris?
They literally got all supporters of more Kamala leaning Harris.
I want to hear what the other two ladies in the rooms have to say about this.
Trump's plan was 3 times that. I was pretty much shocked with that number.
Rona, you were considering voting for Trump now?
I didn't learn anything in this debate that kind of helped me reach a conclusion. I was really happy with both of their answers about Israel at the very beginning. But I had a crazy day. I started this morning interviewing Aviva Siegel, former hostage.
No.
His husband Keith Siegel.
Out of the two of them, J.D. Vance gave a much better answer on Israel than Tim Walz did. Tim Walz said, "Oh, it's horrible" and all that, which obviously he can't say that it was not horrible what happened to them.
I'm afraid we're out of time. Thank you all so much.
What about the old lady in the middle? She didn't even get to say anything, right?
Fascinating, Kate. Enjoyed the conversation.
All right, let's go back to.
I don't want to enjoy this.
I think that was a very biased.
Oh, absolutely, is a biased room. Okay, let's see the spin room.
I mean, we both took a statistics class. They literally got the most biased fucking, what is it called? Poll. The most biased poll they probably could have gotten.
Horrible population right there.
Yes.
The sample, the sample size.
The sample, yes. The sample bias was fucking crazy.
Y'all are good. Yeah.
Tiananmen Square protest that he called himself a knucklehead and that he misspoke. Republicans are going very hard over that. Democrats in turn are.
See, Republicans shouldn't focus on that. Honestly, who cares?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. What matters is what they're saying. What matters is what their policies are, and that needs to be taken care of. What is this? What was that camera work? Who's right there? Who is that? Is that Trump Jr.?
I also want to note we do see some
No.
concerns.
I don't even know who the hell that was.
At least one of the two candidates who debated tonight will enter the spin room and hopefully do some interviews once they get done speaking to their own campaigns.
Well, it's kind of a lot of people look when they say.
Thank you so much, Tom. Want to turn now to
When they look at who goes to the spin room, the consensus is usually whichever candidate goes to the spin room is the one who lost the debate. Because they have to go and, do the spin. They have to, talk about it and do in the interviews and maybe clarify what they were talking about.
focus so much attention
Yeah.
on. It seemed to be
But-
by the wayside as it became a Trump versus
I don't know.
Harris race right now, according to the people I'm speaking to in the Harris Walls camp right now. They say they're dial groups, the folks who say if they like something or don't like it, thought that was the worst thing for J.D. Vance. They didn't like his non-answer, his refusal to say whether, in fact, Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump in 2020 right now.
He
They're gonna
did
try to make some hay
answer,
right
though,
now.
guys.
The Trump people
He
are
did.
trying to
You
make
are
hay
lying out of
down
your
Tim
ass,
Walz, who himself
and
said
that's
sometimes he has
should
a
be
tendency
something
to
I hope
speak
people
tonight
talk
when he said that
about.
he's friends with school shooters. He meant to say, of course, he's friends with school
I hope
shooting
people talk about that
victims,
because
but
that is
that's a key moment.
horrible.
Certainly, I think it's a moment where they think after a night where, in the eyes of the Walls folks, they think he came off.
How do we keep
Vance came off
kids
as a
safe from
slick
guns?
Yale
JD
educated.
Vance, we gotta make the door lock better.
More plain-spoken.
Are you retarded? Is this person big girl slay? Are you fucking stupid? Plus size, fashion, openly black. Who cares?
Yeah, what will people be talking about a few
Dear
days
infidels. What the
They'll
fuck?
really be talking about this debate.
No, that's not all he said when it came to shootings. That was involving
yeah, but
school
things are
shootings.
context for content.
Of course, that was, but he was talking about specifically school shootings, and he is right. The doors need to be locked during the day. They need to be locked because then, you know, you can't get in.
Instead of just saying
Tampon Tim,
are we
that's
really
great.
talking about this thing that happened 35 years ago? So, but this are the kind of things that stick from debates like this. He said, "I'm a knucklehead."
Absolutely. And Democrats reached out to say that was not a strong moment. It's worth noting this entire debate really seemed focused on trying to pin each other for being the incumbent. Remember.
Show of hands, who thinks there's going to be another debate? Nobody. What about you, Lester?
Nobody. Of course, there's not going to be another debate. There's no way. Especially not a VP debate. Nobody wants another VP debate. Because with all due respect to both of the candidates, nobody really gives a shit. What people want to see is the front runners, or the front of the ticket, which is Trump and Kamala. That's what people would want to see if they wanted another debate, but I don't think they are going to do another debate. Because I think Trump said no. In his little Trumpy way that he would say no.
Hey, good evening. I'm Tom Llamas. Our coverage of the first and only vice presidential debate on NBC.
I'm going to find some fun things on Twitter
My colleague Hallie Jackson
for
will
us to
join me
look
in
at.
just a moment. I'm live from the spin room in New York City, where we'll hear from some top advisors to both campaigns and from undecided battleground voters. The
Excuse
big
me.
question, were any minds changed tonight? You see this handshake right here between the two candidates in a debate that kicked off with a question on the unfolding situation in the Middle East, with Senator J.D. Vance defending former President Trump's approach to the region while he was president. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. And Governor Tim Walz attacking the former president, saying many of his former national security advisors have spoken out against him.
It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous.
Why is the world this dangerous?
The debate also featuring some tense moments, such as Vance going after the moderators after they tried to fact-check him about the legal status of Haitian immigrants in his home state.
Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Margaret, but
Thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
We're
because
going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that
The
you guys
economy,
weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. As for Governor Walz, he stumbled through an answer on some discrepancies in past comments he made on China, seeming to admit he misspoke in the past about when he actually visited the country.
I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect, and I'm a knucklehead at times.
Great answer.
There were a couple of heated back and forths, including when Walz challenged Vance on his non-answer about who won the...
No, I don't like NBC News, but I'm subscribing so I can see stuff.
Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
I really hope, because if they don't do it, then I think this was it. Like they said, well, not like they said, but I think will be a hurtful comment. He himself, he said that he doesn't believe that he believes that they did lose, which follows along with Trump. He actually did give an answer, and they're taking it out of context.
His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
All right, joining us now live in the
And I feel like this is, and like they said, that this is gonna hurt him because the media is lying their ass off, saying he didn't give an answer, and he did.
Yeah, Tom, he's sitting down just behind me on the Fox News set. As you can see, the
Who?
intimate confines of the spin room have gotten even more crowded here since the debate concluded and the surrogates started to come in. None of them drawing more attention than Donald Trump Jr., the president's son.
Oh.
and Vance
Oh,
himself.
he is there.
You won't be surprised.
Oh, JD's in there too? Wow.
JD Vance's performance. You heard that from several of their senior
Huh.
advisors. You heard it from Donald Trump Jr. I expect you're going to hear it from JD Vance himself, and we certainly heard it from Donald Trump throughout the course of the debate, commenting over and over again on Truth Social about how well he thought Vance was doing, how poorly he thought the moderators were doing. And I'll just say, Tom, I think there's sort of two key things if we get an opportunity to talk to JD Vance about this tonight.
I think the moderation was better than the last debate. I don't think it was stellar, but I think it was a little bit better.
Yeah. I feel like she was very proud of herself having the power to shut them both up, and
Yeah, no.
every time her face and how she smiled just sent a weird feeling down my
we can turn you.
spine.
Yeah. No, but we can't hear you because the mic is muted. Shut up! We can hear him. Everybody can hear him.
When it comes to the Trump administration's effort to get rid
It's like they don't realize that that his voice can be picked up by their live microphones.
inconsistent with lived reality of what the Trump
Like, we hear what he's saying. So unless you mute every mic in the building, or in the room at least, then we're gonna hear it.
There are quite a lot of people trying to ask the same questions I am, and he beyond those that are going to be asked to him on the Fox News set.
Garrett, I'm curious, has the Trump campaign at all mentioned how this debate sort of felt almost pre-Trumpish in the sense that there was not any name calling, it didn't get nasty, and for the most part, both candidates were pretty civil?
They did. That was a nice touch, honestly. I was kind of happy about that.
What? Sorry, I wasn't done.
I was happy that that they didn't go into name calling and all that stuff. And they were pretty civil with each other.
Sort of tenor and tone of the dialogue to a higher place. We got some of that tonight in what is, I think, for many voters probably feels more like an extra credit project. Watching the VP debate, which almost never moves the needle in actual.
No, you tends to not.
Maybe one for the super fans, but those who turned in, I think, got a lot of substance out of what happened on stage tonight.
Garrett Hake, the extra credit project. I have a feeling Garrett maybe worked on a lot of those. Anyways, Garrett, we thank you, and we're going to check back with you. Let us know if you end up getting Senator Vance. I have Kelly O'Donnell here with us right now. Kelly, I'm sure the Democrats in the White House are spinning you pretty hard. What is their take on the debate? I think they have to be somewhat happy because talking to sources on both sides, this is the first debate out of the three where you have Republicans saying we won and you have Democrats saying we won. The last two, there were clear winners.
One of the things that I'm struck by is what you were just talking to Garrett about, and that is the tone, and that these candidates did speak to each other in a civil way. And what I've been hearing from Harris Walz associates is that Governor Walz didn't want a food fight. He wanted to make the appearance of leadership, and who are they going after? Of those extra credit watchers, they want those who've not made up their mind. And so appealing to
JD Vance is more dangerous than Donald Trump.
of our national discourse.
What the fuck did you just find?
JD Vance is more dangerous than Donald Trump. His is more nuanced and far more organized in his plans to harm this nation and its people. His hatred of women, people of color, the LGBTQ community, and immigrants is beyond his ticket mate, as difficult as that is to fathom. If he ascends to the White House, Project 2025 will be a reality. The good people of this nation cannot allow it.
What the fuck?
JD Vance will be the president, not Trump. They will keep Trump busy with shiny objects. Are you slow? Who thinks Tim Walz is way smarter than JD Vance? JD has issues with answering questions. He is also a liar. Is that Steve O? Is that Steve O? No, that's not the Steve O.
No one.
Yeah. Are you high? Just wondering if you're watching the same debate.
Way smarter.
Probably only you. J.D. Vance just said that he would not certify election. Nothing else really matters. Did he say that? I don't think he said that. Hey, J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris is not the president. Kamala Harris is not the president. Who's the president?
Biden. But she will be the president coming up.
Yeah.
Democracy.
Let's see.
Angular.
Business owner, electronics engineer, married, lived in Thailand 13 years. Cody. He's an atheist, from what I can tell. Dogs. What is that? Movies. Books.
Maybe?
Wine. Gay ally. Democrat. Warning sign.
What the fuck?
This is not how it works. The force is strong. The farce is strong. If you're still making Star Wars jokes like this in 2024, you might be lacking a few cells in your body. Okay. Moving on. Walls has found his groove. Shut up. No, he did not. J.D. Vance, common sense. Trump doesn't even know how tariffs work. Okay, how do they work?
Okay, what the fuck?
How do they work? How do they work? How do they work?
Oh my god, people are...
Stage from anybody in this ticket here. One of the things that we all talked about prior to this debate happening were the favorability numbers, right? Governor Walz has the highest of any person on the ticket. Senator Vance has the lowest. Did anything change that tonight? And does likability matter?
Well, look, likability could matter around the edges, particularly when you are dealing with such a close race, because any and everything could impact voters when a race is this close, particularly...
Well, you know, the polls aren't showing it to be a closer race, by the way.
No, it's not. The thing, it's a tight race. It was a tight race, but Kamala had a slight advantage in a lot of swing states. But I think Trump has actually made some headway in those as well. Actually, now I want to look at the polls.
Well, a lot of polls are showing Trump favoring. At least they were like a week ago.
Yeah, here, I'm going to look at political polls on Twitter. I'm going to see what I can find here.
I do think that the final moment of the debate will be one of the most significant, one that will loom over the rest of the debate, which is when Governor Walz asked Vance point blank, did Donald Trump lose the election? And he said, I want to focus on the future. And
Shut up. Okay.
And then he answered it.
Yeah. So here, we got a 2024 Georgia general election polling. Trump +5. Just against Harris, but against the whole squad, the whole field, +6. Wow. Wow. Hold up. Okay, wait. So that's Georgia. +2. This is a forecast. Harris was up. Looking like Pennsylvania. Okay. Trump's got 2 of them. +2, +2. +2. +3. Generic congressional ballot. Democrats are +2. September 30th.
Yeah, these are all September.
Okay, here. Okay, so September 30th. What? Harris, Vance? Huh? We're not voting for Vance.
Oh, no, buddy.
Here it is. Okay. +7 for Harris.
Where?
On this September 30th political poll. Here's the poll. Right? What is this? What the fuck is this? The Clarity Campaign. Polling is whack.
Are these is this like the actual like political polling?
So or I don't know if it's a he or she, but this account they put up the numbers from different polling places. So we got a Washington Post poll right here. We got a Survey Research poll. Trafalgar Group poll. I like Trafalgar. We'll look at this. What are they saying here? Let's see what they're saying.
Yeah, a lot of numbers I was seeing from, which is is from like polling that you can like send money into, or something like that. I don't know. It's like a really weird. I would have to look it up and show.
Yeah. So, PA poll, Pennsylvania. If the election for president were held today, for whom would you vote? Donald Trump in the lead, and that was 2 days ago. Okay.
Let me look it up so I can show you.
But this is, what is this poll from? Quinnipiac? Ooh, Quinnipiac poll. Okay. Swing State Poll 2024, Georgia, North Carolina. Trump ahead in Georgia on upside of tight race in North Carolina. Quinnipiac University poll finds NC governor race. More voters say Robinson should stay in the race. Okay. So Trump has a pretty good lead in Georgia. A tighter lead in North Carolina, according to this poll. Okay.
On YouTube, Donald Trump said everyone knows I would not support a federal abortion, and under any circumstance, they would in fact veto it, because it is up to the states to decide based on the will of their vote.
People that want them to succeed.
And there's a bunch more.
I think there should be a, I think states is fine, but I think we should move towards a possible cutoff, federal cutoff. After a certain amount of time, you can't do it anymore. And especially amount of time where whatever possible medical problems would have already been found out.
There's a reason why Kamala Harris wants another debate.
Or a majority of them would have been.
Going to sit here and be afraid of doing media interviews. They need something, and I think Walz's uneven performance. I think he had some strong moments, particularly when he was prosecuting a case against Trump. But I think his inability to defend the Biden-Harris administration very well at times, and of course his face plant on the fish story about Tiananmen Square, I think is a reminder that they haven't done much batting practice here with tough interviewers.
Which is interesting.
No, they haven't. That's true.
I don't know if you have that live shot still up. If you were looking at J.D. Vance in the spin room, that's because he's currently doing, I think, a cable news interview. We expect him, we think it is likely that he will come down on the floor. He'll probably chat with Garrett. He might stop by and see Tom. I don't know. We're going to take you back to the spin room when that happens. As, of course, Governor Walz.
I can't find it.
A late-night slice of pizza. I think here in Midtown.
Too many videos coming out right now. That sucks. I'm gonna continue to try.
He's gonna strip all of our rights away as a woman. I can do that as a mom and a dad. What rights, babe? What rights? He was already president, and how many rights did you lose? 0. He's
What the fuck?
She's annoying.
in our in our personal spaces. What do
She's
you think
annoying.
it is when dangerous men come over the border? That's what protecting women and children is. Oh, he already said he's not going to do a nationwide abortion ban. He's not going to do it. If anything, it's going to be state by state the way it has been. And guess what? If a state, 90% of people in a state want something, I think that state should have it, even if I don't agree with it. If you don't like it, move to another state. It's very simple. Stop with the propaganda. This is why people make fun of women. Use your brain. Use your brain, babe.
Shut the fuck up.
She's not wrong, though.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong, but shut the fuck up. It's just annoying. That's all. Everyone knows I would. Oh, okay. So this is what you were just reading.
Yeah.
All caps. That's crazy. All caps. All
Yeah.
caps.
Yeah, I thought that a little weird.
Thank you for your attention to this matter. I love that. That's great.
I mean, I also don't blame him. I mean, it's probably fairly annoying that, half the shit you say is lied on via the media.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is that nobody's going to even bring up that post.
Yeah.
Look at this. The people that can create a conventional sun at night can do it unconventionally too. Do not threaten us.
What the hell?
Fuck you, Iran.
What?
Fuck you, Iran. Iran.
99%.
I will say those don't. Well, actually, it might be. Then again, I don't know.
I was definitely seeing missile strike.
These look like they're hitting.
Yeah.
Which is very horrible, but...
Oh, no, yeah, no. There was a lot of missiles that were not stopped.
Yeah. But also very pretty, but horrible.
They're very dangerous fireworks.
They're dangerously beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
وإطلاق الصواريخ باتجاه أراضينا المحتلة.
Any other nation around that region would have shot all of you for cheering.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in Iraq and you're in a refugee camp and you see cities in Iraq being bombed and you're cheering, I'll put it this way. If you, during the Iraq war, the second one, or the first one, I guess, but the second one, if you saw U.S. jets flying over and bombing a city, and you were just hanging out in a citizen, and they caught you cheering, I'd assume you would probably end up not on the street anymore and either in a prison cell or dead. So, like, and this just goes to show how are they going to have a two-state solution with a people that will cheer when they are bombed? And look, these children are seeing this and they're being taught that this is a good thing. The potential civilian casualties from these rockets, it's a good thing. These kids are being taught to believe. This is badass.
Oh, you should look up the Canadian. See what's going on with that.
Was it a debate?
Yeah.
Ah.
Oral questions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Liberal bloc, they have doubled the debt.
Why don't we hear it from what he's saying? They're speaking English, right? They're not. What are they? What language are they speaking?
We're speaking English.
Oh.
$3. That's what I'm asking for you to donate right now to help me defeat Ted Cruz.
No.
The polls show this race is.
Oral questions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Hold on.
Quebec's Environment Minister said the opposite, though. He said, I would like the Bloc Québécois to...
The thing is that there's a chance that he might be speaking French, but I don't know.
Oh, for that part maybe. I was definitely hearing him speak English.
more strongly than they are currently. Will the Prime Minister listen to those who really truly have common sense and permanently reverse this decree?
Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so he was not speaking the same.
Glad to get economic
Okay.
advice from smart former Canadian central bankers like Mark Carney and like Steve Pelosi, who is doing some great work advising us on how to encourage Canadian pension funds to invest more in Canada. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, on that side of the House, they get their...
Is Trudeau even there? Where is he?
Carbon tax election.
There, he's speaking. Where even is he?
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
I am so glad...
Alright,
You don't have to watch this.
Parliamentary politics, I don't fully understand it, so it irritates me when I have to watch it. I know that they can like yell at each other though, it's just fun. Can I, let's get a transit. This legacy of Khomeini will become international. Are you threatening us? Are you threatening?
Then the fucking idiot below.
Only 3 missiles of Iran were successful in reaching the ground. The remaining 98 missiles were shot down.
Oh my
well,
God.
first of all, I believe that it was more than that. It was over like 200.
Speaker. So. It was over. They said over 200. A new speaker that was there recorded 108. But it was probably more than that.
It probably was more than that. They probably missed a few.
Because you can't record. And there's a bunch of missiles in a bunch of different places.
Yeah.
And some were shot down.
Yeah. What are you even holding? What is that? Like a piece of a rocket?
I don't know. Probably.
Well, I don't speak Arabic, so I don't know what he's talking. We have the right to defend ourselves. What the fuck? Okay. You attacked first. What does this say? I didn't choose you, but I wish you would have cared half as much for these terrorists as you did for children, youth, fathers, mothers, and all the missing Iranians since 2008.
Oh, damn. Nice.
Speaking back. Hot. What is this fucking monarchist propaganda I'm witnessing right now? from the Islamic Republic of Iran with love.
And that literally just shows the air raid sirens that are going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hajizadeh and General Bagheri.
Yeah, like how it's really funny that right after the missiles finally stopped firing, guess what they did? Fucking fled their president underground.
From long hands that can reach us to shaking hands. What happened, Benjamin? Well, I don't know if I'd blame him for being shooken up a tad bit. I mean, Iran is not a small country, and it's not a small military, and they just attacked you. So Israel needs to respond.
Oh, it needs to respond, but the issue is that what type of response? Is it just going to be a retaliation, sending a couple missiles? Because technically, they can invoke the involvement of other countries now.
Well,
this could start a whole NATO war. This attack, depending on how they treat it.
Well, I guess that depends. Well,
the thing is, I don't know if that is really like or it depends. This depending on what Israel does in retaliation, it depends.
It can get countries that have certain defense pacts with Israel on side. But Israel isn't a member of NATO, that's the thing. So they can't invoke Article 5 because they don't have Article 5.
Oh yeah.
So unless they have
Oh no, yeah, no, they're part of the
They have different defense pacts with different nations in Europe, including the United States. And we're allies with them. So, I mean, if push came to shove and it got really bad, then the United States military would end up having to do something about it. The U.S. military cannot have Israel being destroyed. It's just not, you can't allow it. So, we'd have to go in. Which, who knows, from this performance of all these rockets, who knows, maybe something's going to happen in the next few days. What's this? Wow. Let's see that, holy shit, now. This just happened.
What happened?
There was just an alert. On the Lebanese border.
About?
Rocket attacks.
Oh, not surprised.
7 hours ago. Look at this. Oh my god. 11 hours ago. Ugh!
Oh!
Look at all these attacks. Holy shit! Oh my god!
Yeah.
Brother! Ugh. They hit Jerusalem. Why? Yeah, no, Israel has to get its get back right fucking now. Get your get back right now. I want Khomeini's head on a platter. What else? From blotting out the sun to illuminating the night, our arrows still rise triumphantly. Y'all are not that cool. Oh my god. Though that is kind of scary. Shut up, man. Don't Allah Akbar me.
Allah Akbar, so funny. I'm gonna fucking kill you.
What?
Harris person even coming in tonight. So what was it that was bothering you as you watched that?
What really bothered me was how J.D. Vance pivoted the question and turned it.
Okay, shut up.
Again, she's not lying. But America's Hitler. Crazy.
Yeah.
ایران حمله کرده. ایران حمله کرده.
Where is this annoying rat? We are here. They mistook our mercy for weakness. That's horrifying.
90% of our weapon systems successfully struck their intended target. No, they didn't. Sadly, I'm sorry to say. A lot of them did. A lot of them did strike some intended targets, but I don't think you know how much actually did.
They were talking about building settlements in Lebanon. What? I doubt it. I really doubt that. Khomeini. No, I don't like this guy. To be clear. I'm just want to get the news here. Alright, shut up. Dropping bombs on children and assassinating guests is not difficult. Stopping hypersonic missiles, on the other hand, is quite challenging.
Those are not hypersonic, buddy.
Buddy thinks they have something. We can keep this up for a millennium or two. Bullshit. Get the fuck out.
Crazy.
Y'all, keep it up for like a month. We'll see. Yeah.
The thing is that I'm pretty sure a lot of Israel's defense systems were not working properly.
What a shitty night for you to have a malfunction on your stuff.
Arrow 1 and Arrow 2 I don't think were working properly. Which is one of the main systems that targets ballistic missiles. They're hypersonic missiles. They were ballistic. They weren't hypersonic. They were just regular old shitty ballistic missiles that you own.
Yes. Exactly right.
What the fuck?
Is this shit? Okay.
But well, also go back up. Oh, I was going to say something fine. Up. Oh.
Oh, up more.
Yeah, just back to that. Dropping bombs on children and assassinating guests is not difficult. You drop bombs on children as well. I don't think you can really have a say so in using that as an excuse for shooting ballistic missiles at a country.
Yeah, no. Then again, I have doubts that this guy knows what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. This is when we need to pull an Obama.
Hey, yo. What kind of Obama? What kind of Obama?
Striking targets.
Iron what? 99% what? These are our hypersonic systems. Catch them if you can.
Oh yeah, I saw this, yeah. I'm pretty sure that was a video from Lebanon. Or the Gaza Strip, I can't remember.
Probably. They're probably the Gaza Strip watching. Misspoke. Winning with walls. JD.
No.
Let's see what is trending tonight. Okay. JD Vance. Iran. Misspoke. Moderators. Megan. Oh, Megyn Kelly. School shooters, liar, Tiananmen Square, Becky, GoFundMe. Oh. I'm more curious about this Iran business. That's what I want to see. Oh, but the thing that I wanted to talk about. I got really mad about this earlier. Normally, you know, I don't get super duper duper heated about when it comes to like the Ukraine stuff. I'm a little more calm-headed about that. But Putin said something extremely fucking dumb, like, or Russia did. They called for Israel to evacuate or to pull out of Lebanon.
Yeah, they did it. And that there would be dire consequences.
Yeah,
I heard
I'm
about
saying, but bitch, you first. Like, first of all, there's a Russian presence in Syria, and there's a Russian presence in places in Africa, and you're actively invading a sovereign nation right now. So how about you do me a favor and go shove those words up your fucking Ruski, drunk from vodka, fucking dumb ass, loose ass. Like, y'all don't even got a tight one. Y'all have been fucked so hard by Ukraine and the United States whipping your asses during the Cold War when it came to arms. Y'all can't even recover. Now you're telling other countries that, oh, no, you can't do that. There'll be dire consequences. Y'all think you're still relevant? Really? Y'all are a fucking poor gas station with nuclear weapons, and half of them probably don't even fucking work. So I don't want to hear it. Who knows? Maybe y'all are like the Chinese where most of your ballistic missiles are filled with water instead of jet fuel. Fucking assholes. Choke, Putin. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. What?
What the fuck?
Oh,
Damn.
That's
A
that's not funny,
Palestinian.
but, like, ugh.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
nasty.
that, damn.
Ugh. Alright. Let's not watch that anymore.
Also, this is the video from the desert, I'm pretty sure. That this is either the Air Force base or the nuclear power plant being hit. But people are suspecting that this is, we still don't know the full location of it. When I was watching, that was a couple hours ago. But they said it was either a nuclear power plant or the Air Force base. More than likely, it's probably the Air Force base. But one of the targets was the nuclear power plant that was out there, so it's probably gonna be nuclear specialists going out there to check.
Honestly,
it out.
if that's the case and they hit anything, Israel's gotta whip some ass, because that's not. I mean, obviously this alone is justification for Iran or for Israel to pull up with their jets and just fucking flatten Tehran. That's perfect justification. This is perfect. But
yeah,
nuclear power plant being attacked, that's next level. That's like, even if you weren't going to do something before, you got to do something now.
Yeah, that was one of their intended targets, and I don't know. Besides,
raise your hand if you stand with Iran. We stand with the Free Iranian, but no one stand with the Islamic Republic. Amen, brother.
Iran is a terrorist.
And also post your pager number. My hero.
My hero.
He should, like, put his mouth on that and then use his big toe to pull the trigger.
The Iraqi people expressing joy. Oh, and occupied territory is Israel. So
Yeah.
they think it's occupied territory.
Like, listen. I wish we could.
This is. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I wish. I truly do. That these groups of people in Iraq, Palestine, Gaza, Lebanon, Iran. I wish that we could negotiate with these people. I really do. I really do, because we wouldn't have to be killing people. We wouldn't have the bloodshed and the horrific sights that we're seeing. But they don't want to. They don't want to negotiate.
Yeah.
They'd rather cheer the potential casualties, deaths of innocent civilians, than try to end this fighting.
And a little more on the joke side. This is when I wish I was a little older in the military and had the ability to control ballistic missiles and use satellites to pinpoint this location and accidentally fire one off as I dropped my coffee on the panel.
Accidentally. No, you drop it on the panel. It's just like whole system fries. A bunch of ballistic missiles start flying towards the Middle East. Let's see what Censored Man says. Israel exposes itself. 4 days ago, an IDF spokesman appeared on Piers Morgan's show and boasted about how Israel was able to keep the civilian death count so low, which they haven't in southern Lebanon. He said this was due to Hezbollah distinguishing itself from Lebanon's civilian population, allowing the IDF to specifically target Hezbollah and not civilians, unlike in Gaza, where they use the human shield excuse. Total bullshit. That's not bullshit. Shut the fuck up. Anyway. Today, however, the IDF released a video stating the complete opposite. Suddenly, Hezbollah is now embedding itself with civilians, and therefore any civilian deaths are their fault, not the IDF's. Essentially, using the same human shield excuse they use with Hamas to justify killing thousands of civilians. The IDF is doing this because they want to manipulate public opinion to support an all-out war in Lebanon. I hate to break it to you. It's already happening.
Yeah, they just shot. Lebanon just shot missiles. Well, Hezbollah shot missiles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, they already said that they were going to retaliate against all Iranian-backed militaries. Well, not militaries, but whatever, militias, whatever they call it. Whatever they fuck this. So, sorry, I'm pretty sure they ain't holding them back no. They're gonna get the Merkava tanks up.
Yes.
Merkava tanks. That can be some Merkava.
Yeah. Okay, here, I'm gonna finish reading this in a second.
No, you're not allowed.
All right. They want a war with Lebanon and are aware that thousands of civilians will die in the process. They don't care about civilian deaths, as they've demonstrated over the past 11 months in Gaza. But they know it's bad for PR. So now they're attempting to recycle their human shield narrative to justify their upcoming attacks on Lebanon. It's all bullshit. The Israeli genocidal regime has a disgusting bloodlust and wants us to believe that it's just and normal. It isn't. They're doing what they do best, lying in an attempt to justify the unjustifiable. Shut. How do 1 million people follow you?
Yeah, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. I'm in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Why did he say it like that?
Yeah, he misspoke.
How many times will Israel be mentioned in tonight's debate? Man, you really love dick sucking.
It was mentioned once. So sadly not as much as I was hoping. But
Yeah. So Israel has Mossad HQ and key military sites embedded in civilian infrastructure. Excuse me?
Even though Iran might consider that a military target, it is in a densely populated city with civilians around it. And that's
Interesting.
one more
See, it's funny how
layer of
if it's anything about like Trump or anything, he would say, "Oh, CNN, they're a bunch of liberals," but he's literally watching them right now.
Really funny that I laughed at on Twitter when I think Trump tweeted something about Iran being a threat, and some random user just wrote, "Hey man, if we crowdfund and give you $100 million, can we please not go to war with Iran?" And that's why I love the internet, like, because everyone just knows what's happening right now. But we all have to kind of pretend we don't or whatever. And it's like we have candidates that go onto stage when they're running for president of the United States, and they're just like, "No, I love Israel more. No, I love Israel more. No, I love Israel. No. When I get in office, I'm going to do more for Israel. No, if she gets in office, she's going to do less than I'll do for Israel." This is embarrassing.
Who the fuck is she?
That's Candace Owens.
I
have lost so much respect for you. Excuse me? No, they're saying the facts that Israel was attacked, and the Biden administration is extremely wishy-washy on what Israel is allowed to do in response to that. They say, "Oh, they got to be able to take care of Hamas." But hey, whoa, don't go into Gaza. Well, how the fuck are you supposed to get Hamas if you can't go into Gaza? Oh, Hezbollah, they have the right to fight back against. Israel has the right to fight against Hezbollah for attacking them. Oh, wait, but don't go into southern Lebanon where they are. Just, airstrike them. Oh, whoa, wait, but don't airstrike because you might kill civilians. Anyway. Candace, that's not what they're doing. Okay? That's not. I think you just don't like Israel. Iran's missiles completely overwhelmed Israel's Iron Dome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see how if you're laughing when Israel turns around and whips its big dick out, its big meaty military might pee-pee. Two separate angles of Iranian missiles hit Israel. The skies over Israel right now. God, you're really loving to put this up, huh? Greater Israel is not a conspiracy theory. No, you're right. It's not. It's a historical thingy. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Look.
No, come on. Wait.
That could very well not. This could very well be taken in context and very well not be in Israel.
Or it is in Israel and it's fake.
Yeah.
A child pulled out of the rubble alive during Israel's relentless strikes on Beirut. Well, if you're a good parent, get the hell out of Beirut.
Yeah, they did warn Beirut for several days.
Not from military sites. Not from that. They do that too. But they fire those rockets.
Oh my god, it's crazy. It's almost like terrorist groups in the Middle East tend to have very similar tactics. You're a dipshit.
And they're both, they're different in different countries, but they're both under the same role of another higher military.
Exactly.
They're just militias of another country. So they're gonna work the same fucking...
War propaganda.
It's not like it's not true that they just, they shoot missiles from fucking civilians. Because it's one, harder to find where it originated from. Two, because, people blanket it.
War propaganda used to be somewhat believable, but now it's just odd-looking teenager tries to shoot Trump. It was Iran. Ukraine loving deranged liberal tries shooting Trump. It was Iran. Nobody said it was... Well... They do realize that... No, they didn't say it was Iran. People speculated if it was Iran because there was literally a plot that from the Iranians that stated that they wanted to try to kill Donald Trump. And they sent somebody over, and he tried to hire a hitman, or his job was to hire a hitman to kill Donald Trump. So no, it's not a fucking theory. And they never said with 100% or 100% affirmativeness, that it was Iran. They said it could be. If anything were to happen to Trump and it was blamed on Iran, Iran would literally be invaded the next day.
No.
So it's actually
well, also
worse
the government did refuse to fucking state if they would do that or not.
Yeah. So it's actually worse for Iran if Trump were to be assassinated, as it would mean an imminent invasion of Iran. Yet they're trying to put... That's not... Oh my god. Because the fucking government is wishy-washy and they're not going to say it.
At this point?
The answer is categorically yes. The two nations that are vying, competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran. A third nation, by the way, is Libya as well. While no one is watching, under the...
How can anyone watch this and think that Israel hasn't been running America's foreign policy? Excuse me?
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The answer is categorically yes. The two nations that are vying, competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran. A third nation, by the way, is Libya as well.
I guess.
While no one is watching, under the cloak.
Libya did allegedly throw away their weapons of mass destruction program, but yes.
And that is, what do you do about it? You have to dismantle the network, and the question is, do you dismantle all of it at once, No. The first thing you did after the wake-up call on September 11th was that you took on the first regime, the obvious regime. You removed the Taliban regime and you scattered Al-Qaeda, although it has not been completely destroyed yet. Now the question is, what's your next step? Knowing that 3 of these nations are developing nuclear weapons. This is not a hypothesis. It is fact. Iraq, Iran, and Libya are racing to develop nuclear weapons.
Of course, they would have loved to create nuclear weapons. Iran is still trying to get nuclear weapons.
It's not a question of whether you have to.
Because then that means we can't do anything to them. Or at least Israel can.
Take action, or what kind of action and against whom? If I had to choose, should there be military action first against Iraq or first against Iran, I would choose to go after Iraq.
Oh, is that the part that makes you think? Because everybody would have said the same goddamn thing. Iraq is not Iran. Iraq is mainly a lot of desert. Iran is a fucking fortress of mountains. Okay? It wouldn't be fucking... It wouldn't be a cakewalk to invade Iran. It wouldn't. Even for the US military. It wouldn't. At least a land invasion.
Yeah.
Even if they went from Iraq, I mean, it still wouldn't be easy.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what Candace has to say.
Lebanon as a result, as an unfortunate byproduct of Israeli strikes. And if you compare that to the situation in Gaza, I think that what you will find is it's the same IDF, the same operating procedures that we have in Gaza, only that here in Lebanon, until now, the situation is that Hezbollah has so far distinguished itself from civilian population, and they haven't been fighting from within cities. And as such, when the IDF has deployed lethal weapons against them, then terrorists have been killed and not civilians. If you take a look at how many...
Why is Candace... The fact that Candace is even in that...
Change.
Yeah, tactics do change, yeah.
Call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages. Call again...
The sausages? Awesome Jew is crying and throwing up right now. What, Ben? Because he got rid of her? Israel killed Yasmina in South Lebanon today. She was only 7 years old. That's horrible.
Is that true?
I don't know.
Probably
But
not.
Gaza's children wasn't enough for those genocidal freaks. Oh my fucking god. I just want to like find these people and fucking strangle them, I swear. Metaphorically, in the forest. Okay, listen. Estimated around 1,400 Israeli civilians, men, women, and children, were massacred, women raped, children stolen, taken from their parents' arms. And Israel is doing everything it can in both Gaza and southern Lebanon to make sure that civilian casualties are limited. Yes, people are going to die. Yes, that's true. But I don't know when it became this, like I don't know when everybody became fucking retarded. Like, oh, there's military action happening here. Let's just stick around. Go. Israel told you to leave southern Lebanon. In fact, I believe Israel told Gazan civilians at the beginning of the war to go south. In fact, they evacuated them to the south. They said, go south. We're cutting off the water, we're cutting off the electricity, so you guys go south to where there is water and electricity so that we can get the job done in the north. That's what they did. They wanted to limit civilian casualties, and everybody was like, oh my god, they're cutting off the water in Gaza. Oh my god, they're gonna fucking die. Oh my god. If you would just listen, you will not die.
Yeah.
The more you stand around, bitch and moan on Twitter and not leave these areas where there are military actions happening, the more likely it is you will get a missile through the forehead. Okay?
Or that one Palestinian.
Or you'll get debris from what is supposed to be your ally.
Oh yeah. Also, by the way, you might get that taken. You might get the video taken down, buddy.
Why?
Because of the video.
Oh, whatever. We'll see. I don't know, but I think probably gonna get off of the stream soon, but let me see if I can find anything else.
Ooh,
before we go.
I would be careful.
I don't know what that is. We're not gonna look at that. We're gonna hide that. What is this? Chechen leader Kadyrov says Musk remotely disabled Cybertruck. What is he doing? Nasrallah, the Israelis see the invasion of Lebanon as a threat. We see it as an opportunity. Wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. It's almost like y'all, it's almost like you guys want them to invade. Just from the sound of this comment, sounds like you want them to invade, which if you want them to invade, then that would mean that the civilian casualties are on you. So go fuck yourself. Oh wait, you can't because you're dead. Oh my god, I forgot. Great. I hope that wasn't too graphic for the YouTubes. Reports of reports of electronic devices exploding all across Lebanon. Israel murdered this 10-year-old girl in their pager attack on Lebanon. So they obviously knew civilians would be harmed. It's not rocket science.
Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs. Electronic devices that contain images and videos.
Did he just...
Electronic devices and a large capacity drum magazine.
Run that back.
They also seized evidence of the freak-offs.
The freak-offs. Did this man really just say that?
Electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims.
The freak-offs.
And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs. More than 1,000 bottles altogether.
1,000.
KY, stop going up.
Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches.
Great. Oh, are we going to see them? Oh my god.
As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity.
Huh,
and it contains,
really?
I believe 59 rounds.
Diddy was packing, hold up.
3 AR-15s.
Okay. Let's find one more thing to get angry at, and then I'll probably end the stream. What is this?
And I'm gonna go to a random stranger's house.
Okay, we're gonna go to a random stranger's house.
Knock on their door.
Okay, knock on the door. And they're going to open the door.
Enter their home and sit. And they cannot kick me out. They have to feed me. Let me play with their cat. Give me water and shelter. I'm gonna go to a random stranger.
I hate to break it to you. Israel does not need the protection of Palestine.
Yeah.
I know what he's getting at, though. Like, oh, they took his land.
56 from the U.S. From North Carolina originally, so live in Hawaii now, so flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, you know, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil.
What?
This is a storybook.
Oh, Ukraine.
Who ever watched, this is
Ukraine.
evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where, you know, the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous.
Okay.
As of yet, we do know that there were foreign sources attempting to create the conditions for the assassination of President Trump, particularly Iran. There are open reports by the FBI and CIA that the Iranians were attempting to facilitate the murder of President Trump, so it wouldn't be a total tremendous shock if it turns out that somebody had taken them up on that offer. Again, this is all speculative. There's no way to know at this point.
You notice what he just said? It's speculative. There's no way to know at this point. You do realize the question isn't
what that means.
the question isn't whether or not these two goofballs are Iranian backed people who are going to pay them for shooting Trump. The question is, why didn't Trump have more Secret Service protection even after knowing of this potential occurrence?
Well, they did, but the second one isn't I guess really a fair statement for that, just because there's kind of really no way he should have known that Trump was gonna be there.
No, I'm not talking about the second one. I'm talking about in general.
Yeah.
The first one was they had already known about the Iranian plot. Like, that was a week before that happened.
Yeah.
Why didn't he have more Secret Service? Why did the Secret Service act the way they did? AKA suck dick.
Mariam.
I'm going to be careful with this one. Oh.
Her distress so painful.
Israel is literally treating the population of Gaza like test subject. Test subject? How is this test subject? All right.
I don't know, buddy.
You know what? I think that's it for the night. I think that's it. I can't take it anymore. I cannot take it anymore. Okay. Final thoughts on the debate before we go.
So I enjoyed it. It was definitely nice. It was more peaceful compared to both the debates with Kamala and Biden.
Yeah.
I still think Vance won.
Yep.
Played it really well, and almost immediately media is lying their ass off.
Yeah.
And and literally themselves saying that a lot of people were watching. Hopefully the people that did stay were able to listen and shit like that. And so literally all people are gonna get tomorrow when they wake up and look at the aftermath, if they even care, is gonna see that they're lying about what he said.
Yeah.
I'm still he didn't say it. I think he should have said it in the first place, but he did respond to it. But it wasn't immediate. So but they're saying that he didn't respond at all is complete fat ass out lie.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. I think JD did better. I think it was a lot closer, actually, performance-wise. Although I think Tim Walz was very. I think there were times where he was doing pretty good, and then there were times where he was stumbling a lot, stuttering almost. Yes. JD, I heard like a time where he like had a little bit of a stutter, but overall JD did very good. Tim Walz did pretty good. I'll give it to him.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think overall on substance, JD did better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what comes of this. The election is not far. What is it? November 5th. Go out and vote. To anybody who may watch this, vote. Unless you're stupid, because then don't vote. Please, God, don't vote. But if you care about this country and you're old enough to vote and you have an idea of who you want to vote for, do that. Because this is not a normal election. This is big seriousness here. So that's all I have to say. Stream is going to end now. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night, bye-bye.